The video. This is going to be another episode of SNTR Gaming News. Without any spoilers, we will be talking about Horizon Forbidden West. The full game has been leaked, and we will be discussing how that happened. This is not new territory for Sony, and we did want to again give you that emphasis that there will not be any spoilers contained in this stream. This is more of sort of a warning and a breakdown of how it happened. This is an SNTR update. The entire full game of Horizon Forbidden West has been leaked, and we will give you the details on how it happened without any spoilers and warn you, obviously, to be on the lookout for these things. If you like these quick updates, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button and check me out over on SNTR Gaming, where I'm probably streaming live right now. So I pulled pretty much all of this from a report on Screen Rant. We're going to walk through how it happened, how this is not the first time that a game like this has gotten leaked for Sony, and what it means for obviously the future with the continual usage of old PS4s to do some of this. So from Screen Rant, an almost completely finished version of Horizon Forbidden West has reportedly leaked ahead of its release, with some people now playing it. So if you see footage on Twitter or YouTube or other places, it will likely get taken down very quickly, given that it has not been released. That would basically be a DMCA claim. It's copyrighted material that has not been released and given people the right for distribution just yet. Now, this is not the first time, and I do think it is good to remember the last time that this happened. Sony's no stranger to large gaming leaks, having famously struggled against a wave of story spoilers from The Last of Us 2 in 2020. Just weeks ahead of its launch, crucial plot points were shared across the internet, serving as an early indicator that the game and its story were pretty controversial. Now, this spoiler leak led to controversy from fans that were unhappy with story beats, even out of context, which led to several months of discourse before the game was released. And in the digital era, spoilers can be hard to avoid, with fans advised to take caution when browsing. So, if you don't want spoilers about Horizon Forbidden West, you got about a month to avoid them. Just, avoid the forums and the Reddit and the locations where it might get allowed. Most places shut this sort of thing down fairly quickly. So if you're a moderator for any of these places, I'm sorry if you have to see it. Now, how and what did they get? How do they continue to do this? How are they getting access to these entire games? A new report from VGC verifies that PS4 screenshots of Horizon Forbidden West leaked from a playable build of the game, which is said to be nearly complete. Now, the photos have been removed for copyright reasons, and according to the Twitter account, The Dual Sense, they were accessed via a jailbroken PS4. This isn't the first time that a jailbroken PS4 has been used. This was done to access more parts of Elden Ring after the technical test was done. It is not clear how many people currently have access to the sequel, but the screenshots do seem to confirm that Horizon Forbidden West looks really good on a PS4, something many fans were concerned about in light of the PS5's release. The build that's floating around is largely complete, but there are some missing art assets. So if you were concerned about the appearance of PS4, this leak brings good news for you, that apparently, according to those who have seen the PS4 screenshots, that it does look good. Lastly, let's talk about no spoilers. As of right now, it's believed that the early look at Horizon Forbidden West has not been shared to any file-sharing websites, which means the majority of people likely won't be playing it. That being said, it's very possible that spoilers will be shared in the coming weeks and days, with over a month until the release. It's very possible someone will share some sensitive information. It's likely Sony will try to contain this breach as much as it can. The more details and how the leaks occurred are also likely. So Horizon Forbidden West, the entire basically full game, has leaked, and no spoilers. If you want to avoid those spoilers, you're going to want to avoid the places where these things tend to show up. Now, how do they do it? They used a jailbroken PS4, similarly to how people got access to the Elden Ring technical test after it ended, and they got access to the full game. There's silver lining here, though, if you can avoid spoilers. The good news is the reports are saying that the screenshots from this game on PS4, quote, look very good, which might put people anxiety to rest about whether or not this game was going to look very good on the PlayStation 4. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you a fan of leaks like this? Were you concerned about this game's appearance on PS4? It was meant to be maybe a PS5 game in some people's minds, but we want to know what you think in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoy these quick SNTR updates, check me out on SNTR Gaming, where I might be streaming right now, and hit subscribe and the bell button. I'll see you in the next one. And to the rest of you, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you tuning in every day to the live show here on SNTR Gaming as we cover breaking news, big news. This one obviously is a mixed bag. You never want the entirety of a game to be leaked before its release, but it is drawing more attention to the fact that, hey, the game is coming out in a month and people are really interested. What's good, Feed? I see you in the chat. It's also good to hear that people are like, hey, man, those screenshots on the PS4 look pretty good. I obviously like to avoid story spoilers in a game like this. I'm most interested in people that want to see story spoilers before the game comes out. I've always found that to be interesting. Like, what's the reasoning behind that? Like, why do you want to go and see, like, what happens in the game ahead of time? Like what happened with The Last of Us 2. Was the interest in that purely critical? Like, were people wanting to find bad things, or they want to ruin it for others, and then as it spreads? Because, like, the people that were really angry about The Last of Us 2 spoilers, it was like they seemed to be fans of the game, which I found to be pretty interesting. It was like, well, wait, if you're fans of the game, why are you reading spoilers? Why would you not just wait for the game to come out? Does that make sense? So, Horizon Forbidden West gameplay has been well viewable. They've released, plenty of trailers and footage. So what reason would you have to go look at spoilers? I'm actually curious about that. Let's pull the chat. Horizon Forbidden West spoilers. Will you look for them? Will you look for them? Yes or no? Yes or no. So will you look for them? Is this something that you go out and seek out, and then why? I want to hear from people on whether or not you do it or don't do it. Like, what's your reasoning? Are there times where you do it and times where you don't? Is there instances where you feel like it's justified? So, welcome on in, by the way. Make sure you are on live chat. Make sure you have pressed the like button. And welcome into a Variety Gaming news show where we cover lots of different topics. And the Horizon Forbidden West full game has leaked. We will not be providing any spoilers in this stream. That is not something that we want to do. We don't want to we don't want to give that to you. If you're looking for that, I'm sure you can find it. They're just trying to get that YouTube clout. Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. A lot of the times, if you're going to run a spoiler-laden release like that, you're risking a handful of things. You know what I'm saying? You're risking a handful of things. Because they could come and take the video down, and they could say, hey, look, the game's not out yet. You don't have a right to distribute story elements that came, from basically a hack. Like, they basically hacked the thing. They hacked the PS4. What is it? A jailbroken PS4 is how they did it, right? Most weird third-party plugins for Facebook, but I'm looking for a new one that will eliminate all mentions of Horizon Forbidden West from my feed. Oh, right. Story in this game never really excited me. The story in the first game was one of the best parts about it. I don't understand. Hang on one second. I forgot to push this one button. We gotta make sure the light doesn't go up and down. We got our nice new rope light back there. It looks really, really good, but it's so bright. It's so bright that I think I forgot to turn it down today. It's hard to tell what color I pick. It's the dadgum bright. That's orange. And then we have a nice little stand with the coffee on it now. I still need to play the first one. I mean, the first one had amazing twists and turns in the story. The story was very mystical and mysterious, and there were surprises along the way. There's like a late game addition of a character with Lance Riddick that's really, really good. I don't know why you wouldn't like or care about the story in this game. Now, if you're primarily focused on the action, like Horizon Forbidden West gameplay does indeed look very, very good. And if that's all that matters to you is the action and the combat, then I could see really minimizing and saying, well, I don't really care about the story. But the story is a significant element. You interact with NPCs, you have dialogue options. They're constantly introducing new characters in the game. So I don't know. That's a strange one to me, to be like, well, I don't care about the story. All the lights in that room are starting to look like Clark Griswold's house, draining all the power from the neighbors. Yeah, thankfully they're all LEDs, Soul, so this isn't a very expensive setup. I'm not creating a drain on the neighborhood. The funny thing is about the neon rope light is it's too long. It like goes all the way over there and I have to coil it up. And it's hard to stare at these things. They're so bright, like I can't look at them. It'll like mess with me. So I have to like look away when I'm fiddling with them because they're so stinking bright that I can't look at them or I'll see a bunch of spots for like an hour. The facial animations might have been lacking, but the characters themselves were done really well. Yeah, the character design in Horizon Zero Dawn was actually excellent. It was just the animations that were lacking. They all looked great. Like, if you just look at stills of the characters in Horizon Zero Dawn, they look great, but when they animate them, they almost look like, you know, like mannequins. You know, when you go to, like, a Disney World or a place where they have, like, the what would you call them? They're not robots, but they're also not mannequins. What would you call that? It's like it's like a wax museum, but they move. That's kind of what they look like in Horizon Zero Dawn. It's like, what is that? Is that a robot? Like, is that a mannequin? But if you look at them in stills, they look great. Animatronic. Yes, that's it. Animatronic, thank you. Yeah, they look animatronic. So if you look at them when they're standing still, they look great, but when they move, they don't look so great. Now, the new game, there's a significant difference. Horizon Forbidden West looks significantly better with respect to the animations of their faces. I mean, that was one of the first things you knew they wanted to show that off, because one of the first things they do in the reveal trailer is they show a guy's face, and he's sweating and he's hurt, and then you see Aloy, and then, her face is a lot more animated and her hair looks cooler. So I think that they've really stepped that up a bit. The main character is a 14-year-old. I don't want to play as a kid. The main character is a 14-year-old. What game are you talking about? Are you talking at the beginning of Horizon Zero Dawn? She's not a 14-year-old. I think she's closer to probably like 9 or 10. And it lasts for maybe 20 minutes, and then you're grown. You're like a teenager kind of coming into adulthood. I definitely don't think she's meant to be 14 in the first game. She's very much a full-grown woman. She's 19. Yeah, she was like coming into adulthood. She wasn't 14. And when she was little, I think she was like 10 maybe. And that was maybe 20 minutes, if that. The dude just hates all the Zelda games. Yeah, I can't play Zelda, man. I can't stand playing as a kid. I only play games where I'm a man. So when I was growing up, I had to stick to Mega Man and Super Mario, working class guy, strong man, good mustache. I can't abide that, dude. Can't abide playing as a woman or a child. So it really made it hard to play video games when I was growing up. It was a big betrayal when I found out that, Metroid was Samus Aran, woman. Really disappointed. Threw it in the garbage after that. Just, I can't abide that, I really can't. I just... Pac-Man, significantly better than Mrs. Pac-Man. I don't care about the commercial success of that fat chick with a little bow on her head. Oh, that's funny. She looks 14. Listen, bro, I don't want to get into a discussion about that, because you strike me as maybe in a spectrum of personality that I find maybe a little unsettling. Oh, am I muted in Discord? I am. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I just muted myself, but no, I'm not muted in Discord. Yeah. I don't know how you can look at Aloy and say she looks 14. There's something about that makes me a little unsettled. So I'm gonna change the subject and not really engage with what you're saying anymore. That's taking us down a road I don't want to go. In any case, if you're new, I want to know if you seek out spoilers for games like this. Are you going to go and look for Horizon Forbidden West spoilers? Are you going to look for them? Is that something that is that something you want to find? Is that something you're interested in? Because to me, when people did it with The Last of Us 2 and then they got really angry, it was interesting because like the anger came from fans, and I find that to be a little odd because if you're a fan of the game, why are you looking for spoilers? Like, wouldn't you want to wait? Wouldn't you want to, be surprised by what happens in the story? So right now, 82% of the people that have taken the poll have said no. 18% have said yes. So I am curious, those of you that have said yes, have you said yes because you're not going to play it? Have you said yes because you're like, well, I don't really care about the story. I just care about the action, so I'll be happy to read spoilers. I am genuinely more interested in the people that have said no. I'm sorry, and the people that have said yes. I'm more interested. If you said yes, like, oh yeah, I'll look up the story spoilers. That is something I'm curious about. As a huge fan of the series, I'm going to try really hard not to look at spoilers, but also as a human, I will probably cheat. Is that something you commonly do? I don't ever feel tempted to look at spoilers, ever. Now, when I was growing up, my brother's in the chat. He'll find this humorous. I don't know if he knew that I did this. I would consistently look at birthday and Christmas presents before birthday and Christmas, before it arrived. And I don't know why. As a kid, I knew doing it was robbing myself of the joy and the surprise, but I couldn't resist it. They were down there in the open, in the basement, under a blanket. I was like, this is so I just come over and like pull up the thing and put it back down. But, I don't feel that same draw with story spoilers. Yeah, this is from 80s Tees, the Justice League of America. They've got a great DC collection over there. Remember the golf jokes before Last of Us 2 released? No, I don't remember that. Are you really? You're a really weird human being. Me? I'm weird? I said yes, mainly because the story isn't why I play it. I just like the action. So we do have somebody in chat, Striker1, saying, I don't care that much about the story. I just like the action. Okay, that's interesting to me. What did you think about the story in the first game, in Horizon Zero Dawn? They set up the story, obviously. Horizon Forbidden West story looks to be a big expansion on what they did in the first game. What did you think about the story in the first game? You didn't care? You didn't find it interesting? You didn't think it was cool? How did Darth Vader know what you were getting for Christmas? He felt your presence. Oh, Hilly. Bro, I'm calling mom and telling her right now. Listen, man, listen. I would readily tell them. I would readily tell them. Oh, not me. I'm not Weird Jin. Yeah, the other guy. The way that you were treated, I don't even buy it. Yeah, I appreciate that, Black Superman. I'm not calling for anybody to do anything. I just don't pay attention to that gamer community anymore. It's been much better for my mental health to just, I've blocked them all. Not in a malicious way. They're out of the picture. They're out of the frame. We got bigger and better things coming our way. February is going to be huge for us, and that's going to be, I think, a really loud and clear message that, we and I just didn't need that game to survive and thrive. So I remember the Christmas, my brother opened up all the Christmas presents and rewrapped them all. The first time I was able to beat up my older brother. That's why the poll's so interesting to me. Like 19% are people are like, well, yeah, I'll go look at spoilers. QBZ says, I'm all about spoilers. Most media is predictable and mostly tropes. Plus, the spoilers don't tell the whole story. I will say this, though, QBZ. The first game did not deal in tropes, and it wasn't predictable. They had really good surprises along the way in Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought it was very well done. I really appreciated the story. Striker1 says, the story was good, and I'm sure it will be good in the second one, but I find the gameplay is better. The way I look at it is, Horizon Forbidden West gameplay is going to be, and I felt this in the first game as well, I feel it's enhanced and made more enjoyable by the story. Yeah, no spoilers, Veter. We're not going to get into spoilers. What's good, Cat? How are you? I wish Elden Ring would be delayed so I can play Horizon in peace. It is really weird to look at February and be like, well, there's the Elden Ring, then there's Horizon Forbidden West release date. Like, my gosh, what am I going to do? There's not enough time. You know, we're not going to be able to complete everything. I never really finished the first game, so I'm not invested, so spoilers are just interesting. Man, you missed out. I think that the story developed and turned and concluded in a very, very good way in the first game. I thought they did an excellent job with it. Barrier says, I've been looking for spoilers since the news broke because I'm interested in the story. Knowing what's coming gets me even more excited. I don't do this for all games and movies, though. All right, okay. I mean, that's interesting to me. Like, you knowing ahead of time what's coming gets you excited, but, like, I would be devastated. I'd be like, well, now I know. It. Now, this is more severe for me when it comes to, you know, movies and shows and franchises that I really like. Generally speaking, in a game, I'm going to be ticked off, but I'm not going to be nearly as devastated as, like, when we found out significant characters died in movies and stuff before the movies came out. That was when we were on Purple. And, you know, it was that to me is more frustrating because I'm more invested in the characters and the stories in TV shows and movies. But I would still be pretty ticked off if somebody came in and, you know, spoiled significant story beats in a game that I was playing or a game that I was interested in. Eugene says, I don't see a need to spoil a game you know you're going to play. If you're on the fence, go right ahead and find out as much as you can. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Somebody being like, I don't really know. But is that really the hinge on which most people buy a game when they find out things about the story? You know what I mean? Are they like, you know, I was on the fence with Horizon Forbidden West, but those spoilers really changed my mind. Like, that'd be weird to me to have somebody be on the fence and have story spoilers be the thing that turns them over. It's usually gameplay, you know, that makes somebody say, well, now that's a game I want to play. I'm telling you what, for things like Marvel and Horizon, I will burn a relationship to the ground over spoilers. I'll call your mom. I had to unfriend people on Facebook when Breaking Bad was coming to an end. Right? I had to unfriend people because it was like, listen, no one's impressed that you watched the show faster than anybody else and run to Facebook to post spoilers. I wasn't watching Game of Thrones, but I knew when a certain character died because this guy literally posted it. I was like, what are you doing? Like, you think everybody that you're friends with that also watches that show is watching it at the exact same moment you are? What are you doing? Like, you just posted a character death. Just like, yeah. I watched it the very millisecond it was available and, like, live tweeted it or whatever on Facebook. So I was like, when Breaking Bad came around, I told people, I said, listen, if you post Breaking Bad spoilers, even minute spoilers, then I will unfriend you. I can't do it. I'm so invested. I've been watching this show for years, and I will not have it ruined. I will not know things ahead of time. Maybe need to give it another try, says Warpath. An hour into Zero Dawn, I was falling asleep. So boring. Forbidden West doesn't interest me. Still waiting for God of War. I will say that Horizon Zero Dawn is one of the action-adventure games I've played where the intro is a little bit longer than I'm usually accustomed to. It takes a while before you're sort of out on your own and just enjoying a good rhythm of content. Because you start as the little girl, and then you start with your, like, you've got to go, and then you got to do the thing, the trial, and then you win the trial, and then and then there's an attack, and then you get out, and then there's another attack, and then you end up nursing back to health, and then there's another attack. It takes a while for you to feel like, okay, leave me alone. Like that statement that we say at the beginning of a game. I say that sometimes. I'm like, okay, leave me alone now. I would like to be left alone. Let me play the video game. All right. It does take, I think Horizon Zero Dawn does take a little bit of time. But once you get out of that quote unquote intro, It's really, really enjoyable. Clearing the map, the different characters, the story elements, the different abilities that you get. It's very, very fun. Hunting machines is where it shines. It's a shame it takes a while to get to it. It does. It takes a while to get to it. It takes a while for you to get like a lot of the tools and things. It takes a while. If you're just tuning in, we're discussing Horizon Forbidden West. The full game leaked, and there's a poll at the top of the chat. We want to know, will you go and look for spoilers? There will not be any spoilers in this stream. I merely reported on it, how it happened. The silver lining here is that the leaked images were from a PS4, and apparently folks have said they look very good. So if you were concerned about what this game was going to look like on a PS4, rest assured, it's going to look just fine. I mean, the first game looked just fine, so I didn't expect any issues with that. I love the slow burn opening. It's old school. Ocarina and Majora both take their time getting going. I think you can go too far. Right? I think you can. I think Horizon Zero Dawn does a good job with it. Hopefully Horizon Forbidden West does as well. But like, Cyberpunk turned me off. Even if the gameplay was like really, really good in Cyberpunk, I thought the opening pacing was annoying. I did not like it at all. I was like, no, this is bad. This is bad. Right? Now there are people that would defend it and say, oh, but it's so good. It kind of builds, and there's characters and there's story elements that really have to be slowly told. Yeah, sure, but in my opinion, no. I don't enjoy it when it takes that long to set the game up. I need February to get here. I tried replaying like 10 different games in the last week and nothing is sticking. Doing a seasonal character in Diablo 3 until then. Yo, what's good, Russell Stewart? Yeah, it's tough when you're waiting for games to go back just to kind of like play something to pass the time. It can be tough to enjoy it. I still want to go back and completely do everything on the island of Tsushima and then play through the entire thing of Ikishima. I just haven't had time. I've been so busy. And then the minute we've got time in the evening, I typically am watching something with my wife. Like, we've been working our way through like Downton Abbey, so it's like I just don't have time, you know. Diablo 3 actually has a great seasonal system. I don't like Diablo 3's seasonal system for a handful of reasons. It's as good as it is frustrating. You get so far and then you can't play with anybody. Like, my wife and I were working our way through it, and then it was like, do this solo and do this solo and do that solo. And I'm like, you know what? Frick you. Like, this is supposed to be a game you play with other people, dadgummit. God of War on Friday? Yes, we will make sure to play God of War on Friday. So from Friday, we'll continue. We'll have an Elden Ring discussion in the morning, and then we'll play some more of Sekiro. We'll probably just fight that one boss. And once we beat him, I'm assuming that's going to take me a while, an hour or more. Once we're done with him, we will likely then just roll over into a third stream and check out God of War on PC. It features some really, really nice stuff, so we will do the same thing on Horizon Forbidden West release date. We will do the same thing. We will dive in and play, and we're not sure what the support will look like, because generally speaking, I do a talk show, and that's what people tune in for. And when I heavily get into gameplay, unless it's a From Software game, we tend to struggle a little bit to do long tail gameplay. It's been a while since we've tried it though. The channel's grown. We have a lot of new subs. So if you're new and you haven't hit subscribe yet, it is free to subscribe. It enables you to talk in my chat, and I'd love to hear from you with the poll at the top of the chat. So do me a favor, hit subscribe, hit the like button, introduce yourself. We do variety gaming coverage Monday through Friday, and I am safe for work, so you can subscribe in confidence. I'll be in your sub feed all week doing all sorts of different gaming news coverage, and a lot of people throw me on in the background because they don't have to worry about the kind of language that I'm going to use, and they're able to just kind of, people treat me like video game radio. So welcome to all of the new people. And there's ways to support the channel directly. Subscribing is free, but if you want to do a paid membership, or a tip or anything like that, you can hit the $ at the bottom of the chat. It'll let you become a member, send a tip. And then we do have various sponsors. We have Displate. I'm wearing a shirt from 80s Tees. And then we have the coffee. So you can use those commands as well. People in chat can tell you how good the coffee is. And nope, I was thinking we might have our first coffee sale of the day. Who's going to be the first coffee order? Now, the coffee's not a partnership. That's mine. That's ours. My wife and kiddos ship that to you. So you're supporting like a small family business. I'm not getting some kickback from some other company. Safe for work, my butt. I end up getting distracted at work. Hey, listen, it's not my fault if you get distracted at work. Like, listen, the quality of the show has certainly gone up over the years, but that's not my fault. Just sub to your channel, hoping for great playthroughs and great community. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. If you're a fan of From Software games, you're going to get a lot of playthroughs of From Software games. And I really hope that you guys in the sub base and the general viewing public support some playthroughs, because it'd be really, really great to play through Horizon Forbidden West, crank through it before Elden Ring launches, I don't think we're going to be able to play through God of War on PC. That's not really going to fit. But a nice playthrough on Friday makes sense to show it off and let people see how beautiful the game is. How do you feel about people not liking games based on the gender or ethnicity of the said character? I don't necessarily understand that, because here's the thing. Whenever you're interacting with a view that you think is either ignorant, unhealthy, or wrong, or maybe even damaging or unkind, the best thing I think to do is to try to understand it so you can speak to it. Generally speaking, what we do is we hear something like that. Somebody will say, well, I'm not going to play Horizon Forbidden West because I don't want to play as a woman. Okay, and you hear that and you're like, what the frick? It feels so archaic and outdated and almost medieval. It feels Neanderthalic. It's like, what the heck? Somebody else might say, oh, I don't want to play Horizon Forbidden West because Aloy isn't sexy enough. Like, these are things men will say. And generally speaking, it feels to me as if it's rooted in... It's rooted in something psychological. I don't think it's rooted in just like a preference of like, well, I like pepperoni on my pizza or I don't like pepperoni on my pizza. I think it's rooted in something psychological. It's like you have some kind of a psychological barrier with you can't enjoy a game if you can't play as a dude or you want the women to be, running around in a bikini. So I would rather try to understand why they feel that way and then try to say, listen, this seems like a strange or ignorant position. Too often right now, this is kind of what I think happens, is we hear men or young men say something ignorant in the gaming space. This is something that's been, that I've been observing, is we see men or young men say things that are ignorant or harmful in the gaming space. And instead of trying to understand or educate, we just sort of bludgeon them and speak to them as if they're just animals, worthy of being caged up and carted off, right? And I just think it's interesting. I saw an interesting clip of Jordan Peterson saying that people were really angry at him because he was, his audience was, young, disaffected, angry men. And he was like, well, I don't understand. I'm a psychologist, and my content, my speeches, my lectures, and my books are aimed at helping people. So why would that be a problem if I'm helping, young, angry men? Why would that be an issue? And I think there's similar trends that I see in gaming. So Horizon Forbidden West is a good example. Aloy's appearance has been debated and criticized as if she's supposed to be pretty or she's supposed to adhere to some spectrum of beauty. Like, there's like a presumption in the criticism of like, well, she should be really pretty or something, right? Now, for physique purposes, I could see somebody criticizing a game and being like, well, why does Kratos look like he's, like skinny and gaunt and weak? That would be weird, right? He's supposed to be a god. He's supposed to be really strong. Even when he fights Baldur is a more skinny framed man, but he still has muscles and a physique, right? So you could get down to physique criticisms and say, it'd be really weird if like Aloy was strutting around and she was either obese or incredibly weak looking. She needs to look like somebody who is surviving, fighting, and athletic and living off the land, right? So you could get down to like realistic criticisms of physique, like Lara Croft should look thin and muscular and athletic. She should look like some of the contestants you see on American Ninja Warrior, right? There was a time years ago where people went through and took pictures of like Lara Croft and other females, and they made them just heavier. And they're like, this is more realistic. And I was like, no, it's not. Sure, there are different body types in existence. I wouldn't dispute that at all. But the body type of somebody who is climbing mountains and rappelling from them and fighting and surviving, they would look athletic. They wouldn't look like, you know, a more you know, fuller figured person. And so I don't think that's ever what happens, though. I don't think when men criticize Horizon Forbidden West because they think Aloy got a little bit thicker in her face or whatever the frick people were saying, I don't think that's rooted in something that is thoughtful or seemingly aiming to be accurate in their criticism. I think it's sort of a juvenile mentality and a presumption that like, well, women in video games are supposed to be hot and pretty, and so the criticism's rooted in an unhealthy assumption. I think that assumption has largely been subversively planted in your brain because since I was, 15 or 16, whether I watched a music video or an advertisement or a billboard or a sign at the store or a movie or a video game, women have largely been shown in sort of decorative ways. Most of the women that I've seen that have been propped up as icons of beauty are thin, buxom, shapely, you know, very symmetrical faces, very good bone structure and cheeks and everything. Like, they're beautiful, right? And so, subversively, that gets communicated to my psyche over and over and over again. So it would be odd if suddenly I walked past Victoria's Secret and there was a very sort of ruddy, homely looking woman with no makeup and her hair's a little disheveled and she's sort of, you know, she's out of shape, maybe she's a little overweight and she's, you know, promoting the lingerie. That would be weird. I'd be like, whoa, why? And it wouldn't be that I'm judging her and saying, ew. It would be, well, my expectation has been this over and over and over again, and now I'm getting something very different. I think conversely, that has happened in video games. You've gotten game after game after game of women looking like they're ripped from the set of Baywatch and thrown into a medieval sort of bikini, you know, axe-wielding setup. And when you don't get that, you're like, what is this? Why does Aloy look normal? Why does she look a little sunburnt and have freckles? Why does her face not look like, you know, the one that we saw that was like, it turned into a meme, like somebody literally went in and like redid her face and made her look like a Maybelline commercial or something. It looked ridiculous. Like, what, she's out in the wild fighting dinosaurs and has time to do her mascara? Like, what the frick is this? So I say all that to seek to understand why you might have that expectation that's built into the presumption and the assumption that drives you to criticize her appearance. I don't say all that to justify your presumption and assumption. I'm attempting to dismantle it. You shouldn't think in that way, even though that's been the consistent thing that you've been communicated since you were a teenager. Right, I graduated high school in 2000, and generally advertisements of makeup and clothing for women has shown a very unidimensional body type and, you know, very cliche expressions of beauty. Large breasts, very skinny or thin faces and builds, very symmetrical faces, you know, and now we've sort of gotten into other body parts that are nice when they're big or quote-unquote thick, right? And there's nothing wrong with having preferences of like, I really, really like when a person looks this way. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's a bad thing. But I do think when your preference becomes the determiner of inherent value or like far-reaching value, well, now you're gone too far, right? You wouldn't do this in any other circumstance, right? You wouldn't do this in any other circumstance. So imagine that you grow up in a town where all of the advertisement for food shows you a cheeseburger and fries and a Coke. That's all you ever see. And that to you is dinner. You associate that with dinner. And that's what you have for dinner. And when you go to the local restaurants and the local fare, that's what they have for dinner, right? It would be understandable if you traveled to another town and they had, fried chicken and JoJo's. You'd be like, what is this? You would inherently maybe reject it at first and say, that's not dinner. That's not what we eat at dinner time. We have a cheeseburger and we have fries and a Coke. Now, somebody would obviously tell you, that's not a very healthy view of food, is it? Having the same thing. It's very narrow. It's a little cliche. It's a little stereotypical, right? What's a JoJo? They don't know about JoJo's, chat. Anyway. They don't know about JoJo's, chat. Big, long, seasoned, sometimes spicy potato wedges, right? Tell them about JoJo's if you know about JoJo's. The point that I'm making is, you would be wrong to say, well, fried chicken in JoJo's is bad or lacking of value. Why? Well, because it isn't true. It's just not what you're accustomed to. It's just not your preference. So we take preferences, baked in preferences of beauty, and then we use that to act as if something doesn't fit into this framework, it is of lower value. And I think we do that to our peril. I think you miss out on appreciating different types of beauty, right? I think you can look at a very, androgynous, strong, muscle-bound woman, and you can see beauty there and say, there's something beautiful about that physical form. She's beaten her body into shape like clay, and she's a force of nature, right? And you can equally look at like Monica Bellucci and be like, wow, what a beautiful woman, right? They both have beauty in their own way. They both have value in their own way, even if your preference would be Monica Bellucci, right? Like, somebody's preference might be like, no, I don't like a fair and sort of shapely woman. I want a strong woman. I like women that are working out and lifting weights, right? And this works with men as well. Somebody might look at, Jason Momoa. I think Jason Momoa is an absolute just dish. But some people might look at him and be like, no, he's too big. He's too muscly and hairy. I like a more, smaller framed, more fair-skinned man, without facial hair. See what I'm saying? Like, but your preferences don't determine that person's value or beauty. Like, well, because I prefer more fair-skinned men without any facial hair, smaller frames, Jason Momoa is ugly. Well, I will fight you in the street, first and foremost. But secondly, it was like, no, that's a silly thing to say, right? That's a silly thing to say. A 50 spot from Insomniac Black. That's a tip. Morning, Lono and chat. I'll be avoiding spoilers like the plague. I'm a mega fan, so I bought the collector's editions in 2. I'd be livid if it got spoiled. See if that's serious. Well, yeah, thank you for the $50 tip. That's very generous. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you're enjoying the talk show, getting into a sort of serious subject here about Horizon Forbidden West. Full game leaked. No spoilers. We will not be getting into spoilers. So if you're enjoying the show, be sure to hit subscribe, hit that bell button. Let us know what you think in chat. Will you be avoiding spoilers? Hey, our first coffee order of the day. A bag of light roast goes to Renzo Gaming. I've been drinking the light roast. I'm back on the light roast. It's my favorite, I think. It's so smooth, so drinkable. I love it. That balanced acidity, man. Whew. And the light roast, it's one of the smoothest coffees I think you can drink. Anyway, so going back to the original question, what would I say to somebody who has an aversion to playing a game because of a gender or an ethnicity? In my effort to understand them, I'm also trying to kind of correct that thinking. They could be young, they could be impressionable, and I would like them to, think differently about it. I think it's unhealthy to have like a psychological block, It's now, let's say this. There is a giant difference between playing a video game and looking like Aloy, a character with a name and a backstory and all of that. That's not the same as creating a character in a game. When you create a character in a game, I fully expect people to make the character look like themselves most of the time. Now, not all the time. There's a spectrum of people that make the character look like something they're not. Like, I might make the character look really big and tall and muscly. Well, I'm clearly not that. Women might make the character look very tall and thin and shapely, and maybe they're short, and maybe they're, maybe a bigger framed person, but they want their character to look like a runway model. There are men that will do that. They'll make their character look like a pretty woman. But if you have an aversion to playing a game, let's say like you see Aloy and you're like, I don't want to play as a woman, or like you didn't want to play Deathloop because the lead character was a black man, I have significant questions for you. I just do. I find that to be, there's levels of it that I find to be disturbing, but I also find it interesting. Like, can you explain yourself, please? Like, why? What's the problem? I put my coffee in a different container, and now I can't remember if I got light roast or dark roast. Gonna have to shoot blind next time. The dark roast is pretty dark when you look at it. So if it's more of a brown, if the grains are more brown, then you probably got the light roast. If it's darker, then it would be the dark roast. Send a sample of light roasted Ethiopian. We have some samples coming for the next seasonal blend that we want to do. So hey, let's hit 200 likes on the video. If you haven't done that, take the poll in chat. We, less than an hour ago, we already have 400 votes, so thank you for all the votes. Horizon Forbidden West spoilers, will you look at them? We're having a pretty good discussion about why somebody might not might play a game because of the character. Philip says, spoilers to me are awful. You only have one chance to play through a game the first time. Imagine knowing the end of Lucky Number 11 before watching it. Your first watch is ruined. I love that you bring that movie up, because I actually like that movie quite a bit. I think if you don't play Deathloop because he's black, we all know the reason. Well, hang on a second now. Hang on a second. It's not that simple. I think we simplify these issues, and that's what makes it so difficult to solve them. I think there are people who would refuse to play Deathloop because the lead character is a black man, and they would do it with malice in their heart. And they're a hateful, awful, nasty person. But I don't think every person that wouldn't play for that reason, I don't think they all fall into that category. I think we make the mistake of acting as if there is active and malicious hatred when there's maybe more unspoken, maybe less malicious, less, I would say probably maybe even less harmful levels of just like discomfort. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a difference between the guy at work that won't sit next to you because of what you look like, because it makes him uncomfortable and uneasy because he was maybe raised in an environment where he's been taught some unhelpful things. There's a difference between that guy and the guy won't sit next to you at work because of what you look like because he hates you. Do you see the difference? They're both taking the same action. I'm not going to sit next to this guy in the break room because he's a black man or whatever. They both do it, but they have very different reasons. One is actively, maliciously harboring resentment and hate, just a pitiful human being. The other may have been raised in a neighborhood, culture, or family system that creates a sense of anxiety and unease that can be corrected, that can be fixed through just osmosis of like just being around people and being like, maybe I was wrong about people that look like this. What am I? My ignorance is being sort of dismantled. So most people are not inherently hateful. Right. I think we create a boogeyman and we wail on the boogeyman and we're like, you're just a hateful piece of trash. And it's like, I don't know. The people saying this might just be like, they might just have like a dash of ignorance, you know? Subconscious racism is a big problem, but yeah, it's not overt, so it seems less harmful. At least it seems less harmful. I would say it is. I would say it's less potently harmful, but it can be more what's the word? It can be more inoculatingly harmful. Like it's easier for that to spread, you know? Like in The Walking Dead, they all have it. So when they die, they turn into a zombie. So it quietly sort of spreads and then they all have it, right? There is something that's more potently harmful when they get bit by a zombie. But there's also sort of like a contagion effect when it's sort of subversive and unspoken. So they're both harmful, but in very different ways. So to that analogy, right? Like the zombie virus spreads and no one knows that it's spreading, but they all have it. It's kind of like underneath the surface. But then if they get bit, it's like, whoa, they change. So that, I think, is the problem. I think we act as if everybody's a zombie bite. It's like, no. He might have just been raised in a dumb family, you know, who was also, and his parents were raised in a dumb family, right? There are dumb families. That's not an insult. They're just dumb. They don't know. They don't know any better. Their grandpa and his grandpa and his grandpa taught him this, you know, and then it spreads. And and then we look at that in gaming and we're like, these people are awful and hateful and ban them from the face of the earth. Listen, you're not really achieving much, you know? It would be like in The Walking Dead, if we're going to take the analogy, you know, full circle here. Well, what do they do with the zombies? Well, they get rid of them, right? Now, if somebody said, well, we have the same thing they have, and zombies can spread it through biting, we spread it through just existing, the logical conclusion would be minimize humanity. Let's just get rid of everybody. No. Do you see how if they treat the humans the way they treat the zombies, it would lead to utter destruction? Well, we got to get rid of the zombies because they're horrible, they're abhorrent, and they bite, right? But you could also say, well, we all have the infection, so just get rid of all of the people. And that's kind of how we handle this. Any elements of that level of ignorance, and we're like, get it out of here. Well, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be better to have a conversation, a teachable moment, try to understand where they're coming from, like why would they think this, and then try to elevate their consciousness and create a better person, a better citizen? Wouldn't that be better, right? Oh man, yes. A friend of mine passed his comms. He's at like the upper level of getting educated, and he passed his comms. I was like, I knew he would. But it was stressful. It was like waiting all holiday break to find out. Even before they manage to emulate their parents, kids will be brutal beyond belief. I think you might be speaking to the idea that if we push back too hard, they dig in their heels and it just gets worse. That's exactly right. So if you picture it in that way, imagine... So in The Walking Dead, some people would kidnap the zombies and use them as weapons. They would like put them in like a cage, right? And then they'd use them as weapons. They'd like release them and let them, you know, storm a village or whatever. If those same people were like, well, let's just put people in cages too because they're just as dangerous and just as likely to spread the virus. Let's put them in cages too. Well, what would end up happening is, this gets really interesting. Man, this is good. The psychology of the people that aren't that bad would slowly gravitate toward the people that are really bad. Why? Because you're shoving them over in that category, and then all of a sudden they feel a little bit more like-minded and a little bit more entrenched. So what you end up doing is you convert, let's say, like a level 3 hater. Let's call them haters because I don't want to use the R word. They're like a level 3 hater. It's subconscious. Maybe they make some offhanded jokes sometimes. They're like a level 3. If you treat them like a level 9, guess what? They might just start to gravitate towards level 9 persons and ways of thinking. Because you're get out of here, right? Go on. You're horrible. Well, so are you, right? You're pushing them towards a psychological gravitation of like, well, if you're going to treat me like I'm a level 9 hater, well, then I'm going to find and gravitate toward people that are level 6, 7s, and 8s. And then there's like this cyclone where they all get sucked in and they start acting like way worse versions of themselves. It's their own fault. I'm not acting like they're just bludgeoned into this, you know. Renzo Gaming with the brand new membership. Enjoy the dope badge and emotes. You are dope and deserve dope stuff. Come here, buddy. We like you. They don't. They're the problem, not you. Right. You just summed up why our culture's over-reliance on mass incarceration is bad news. Yeah. Psychologically, you're taking somebody with a bent toward bad, and they're like a level 3, you know. Maybe they stole something, or maybe in a moment of panic, they held up a liquor store or something. You know, and you put them in an environment where everything trends toward murderous, you know, degenerate, you know. 10K subs. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who has hit subscribe today as well. If you treat someone with hate, they become a hateful person. Well, people tend to live into the identities that they're given, right? So if you're tuning in for Horizon Forbidden West full game leaks, we're not getting into spoilers. I want to know what you think about the spoilers. Will you seek them out? That's what the poll at the top of the chat is for. So take my poll, smash the like button. Let's hit 200 likes. Somebody brought up the question concerning Aloy, right? In Horizon Forbidden West, Aloy's character was criticized because of her appearance early on, and we're kind of getting into this the subject of what about people that refuse to play games because the character is either a different gender or ethnicity than them, right? That's kind of where we're on this subject. Yo, happy birthday, Techno. And so it's not that if you treat someone with hate, they become a hateful person. People live into the identities that they're given. If you tell a child that they're stupid, they will eventually live into the identity of a stupid person. You're so stupid. You messed this test up, homework, project, whatever. You're so stupid. You know what they'll start to do? They'll start to believe that they're stupid, so they won't apply themselves. Why bother with my homework? I'm stupid. I'm not going to pass this test. Why study? I'm stupid. They're going to live in and then like live out into that like, well, I'm stupid, right? Put this on the other foot, and parents that tell their kid that they're special and they can do no wrong, and then when they get a bad grade, it's the teacher's fault, and they never punish the child, that child becomes just as horrible. Why? Because they think they can do no wrong. They go out into the world with this entitled sense of everything is mine, and if it's not given to me, I will scream in your face in the grocery store, right? Creating these Karens, you know, as it were. And so people live into the identity. So if the culture in the world is shouting at you that you are a hateful, awful person because you have an ignorant view, what they're doing is they're allowing that ignorant view to metastasize and grow. Because it's like, again, maybe you just grew up in a dumb neighborhood or family where you were kind of, you had a lot of dumb things baked into your schema, and instead of having that dismantled and allowing your consciousness to raise, you're talked to as if you're a horrible, awful person. You might as well be on the wrong side of history in World War II, right? You might as well be those people the way that you're spoken to. So what you do is you start to live into that identity. Yeah, well, and so this whole conversation started because, like, if someone came to me and said, "I will not play Horizon Forbidden West because I don't want to play as a woman," I'd be like, "What? Why?" I wouldn't say, "You chauvinistic, patriarchal piece of garbage." Why? What the frick point is that? Why? Why do you think that way? Why is that your preference? They could respond as calmly as this: "I don't know, man, it just breaks the immersion. I like to play a game and have the character look like me." Oh, well, that's awfully harmless. That's not mean-spirited or nasty. Okay, I think you're missing out. I think you're missing out on a lot of games because you look a certain way, man, and most people in the world don't look that way, right? People look different than you. Different hair color, different stature, different size, different musculature. Like, you're missing out on a lot of games. I'm going to push in on it a little bit. That's not quite the same as somebody saying, "I don't want to play this game. I don't want to play as a woman." And I'm like, "Why?" "Because women are weak and feeble." What? Well, now we can have a conversation about, that's awfully ignorant, not rooted in reality. Who taught you that? What life experience brought you to this point? Such animosity and anger. What brought you here? What happened to you? Radical says, "I think what's so frustrating, and you're not doing this, is that this kind of conversation usually only comes up when it comes to women protagonists." Of course. Yeah. Why? Because this gets into like the sociology of video games, but if you go back to the dawn of the Nintendo and video gaming marketing and culture, you can see there was a heavy saturation of young boys and young men that gravitated towards video games. Now, some of this could be biological, right? Because I found this to be very interesting in some of the stuff that Peterson's commentated on, that like women tend to be more interested in people and men tend to be more interested in things. So if you look at toys, girls gravitate towards dolls and babies and little people and houses. Why? Because they're more interested in people, right? It's why women gravitate towards nursing and men gravitate towards engineering. This is psychological. This isn't like some patriarchal system where like women are funneled to nursing and men are funneled to engineering. Like, don't buy into that. That's not true. That's a documented psychological trend and bend. That doesn't mean that you can't have male nurses or women in engineering. The trends are a representation of a psychological and biological reality. So if you remember that and you look at video games, right? It's thing oriented. It's mechanical. It's impersonal. It's not person oriented like a doll or a baby or like a stuffed puppy. Okay, so it makes sense that in the dawn of like video games that young boys, there's not a lot of nurture in this, Eugene. This is across spectrums of even more egalitarian cultures. It's not nurture. It's a psychological reality that's documented across cultures. So it's not a nurture in the toy wise. We obviously sense it. They market it because they're like, well, boys are more interested in things, so trucks and cars and guns, and girls are more interested in people. So they reinforce it, sure, but the bent is there ahead of time, right? That's why the marketing works, right? A little boy doesn't know why he finds trucks and cars more interesting. More commonly, that's the case, right? He doesn't know why. It's there. It's an a priori thing. It's there before, and that's why the toys sell that way. Because if it was different, if they were a neutral palette, then it wouldn't matter. You would just market toys as whatever. It just wouldn't matter. You'd be like, here are dolls, toys, trucks, dogs, whatever, and they would sell equally. The marketing results and the marketing test of the toys is because there's something there beforehand. We're just different. There's nothing offensive in saying that. And I think if you see that and you look at like, okay, what spectrum of children would have been drawn to video games, it would be men. young men, males, boys, and girls would be less likely to. That doesn't mean that girls didn't play video games. It doesn't mean that they didn't make up a portion of the gaming populace. But the trend was, it was probably like 90-10, 80-20 split. Way more little boys were playing video games. So, take that trend in the like mid-80s, late 80s, and you take that trend and set the trajectory for, 20, 30, 40 years. What happens? There are more men in development, engineering, game development, studios. They make up a larger portion of the viewing audiences on these platforms. So all these women that shake their fists at the sky because they're not in the top on the purple platform, it's because of the demographics. It has nothing to do with the fact that the platform is rigging the game. It's because the demographics of the viewing audience is showing up, and that's what they want to see. Why do you think the most watched woman on the platform is using her physicality to get views? Well, why? Because the demographics of the website, right? If the demographics of the website was more evenly distributed and had more women coming to the platform, well, then there would be a natural gravitation and a support of female streamers that are just playing video games. But that's not there. Why? Because of 40 years of a sociological trend of who gravitated towards video games. So, back to Radical's point. Why this subject only comes up when it's a female protagonist. I'll tell you why. Because for 30 or 40 years, men have made up a larger portion of the gaming audience, right? Well, if you study it globally, it's actually pretty fair split. The global numbers are always going to skew this because you get into the Asian market and it's mobile and there's far more women playing. So if you look primarily, though, these conversations circle around Western ideals, right? And American ideas about beauty. Pretty much every game I played, if you go back and maybe look at like Duke Nukem or Doom Guy, whenever you created a male protagonist, he was big and he was strong and he was very, mouthy and arrogant and confident, right? Why? Because that's what people would like to be. Who wouldn't want to be big and strong and confident and the hero, right? So, as I said, if you see that for 20 or 30 years and then something comes up that's very different than that, you're going to say, what's this? Right? What's this? This isn't what I've been experiencing all this time. And that's where I think it stems from. It's that it's been a set expectation for years, and men are not always being nasty when they say this. They're just like, I'd prefer to play as a dude, or I'd prefer to play as a strong person, or whatever. Where are the spoilers, clickbait? Where are the leaks? Well, it's not clickbait. Can you read? Let me help you. I'm going to read the title of the stream to you. Horizon Forbidden West full game leaks, no spoilers. So why would I be showing the leaks on stream if it says no spoilers? I know it's hard to read more than like 7 words at a time, but you can do it. I believe in you. We're asking people at the top of the chat, will they go seek out the spoilers? I'm not going to put them in the chat. That's not what we do here. I reported on the leak, how it happened, what they got their hands on. There's a silver lining because some of the screenshots of Horizon Forbidden West PS4 actually have been reported as looking very good. But we're not going to comb over the spoilers, or the leaks themselves. Read the title of the stream. Accuse me of clickbait. Spend some time reading before clicking if you feel like you're getting baited. It's not just that it's real life. When you're in the army, the body, you feel you need to be more than confident. Your life is on the line. Well, yeah, but in that scenario, you're trying to become part of a unit, which isn't really what we're talking about. No, it doesn't say in the thumbnail that we're not going to do spoilers. It just says it in the title. I didn't put no spoilers on it just says full game leaked. It doesn't even say leaks on the thumbnail. It just says full game leaked, as in we're reporting on the fact that the full game got leaked. But anyway, it's too hard. Reading comprehension's hard this early in the morning. Buy some Rageless Roast. It might help you out. Hey, another order of coffee. Thank you very, very much. 2 bags of the dark roast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see here. What is this? No, thank you. I thought it was like a genuine partnership offer. I disagree. I'm 100% sure that the majority of gamers never cared who or what the protagonist is, as long as it makes some sense to some degree. It's sad that a small group gets this attention. I think you're sorely mistaken. If you think that a small minority of the men who play video games don't have these attitudes, then I think you're understating it far too much. You know, I think it's far too much. It's not. I don't think it's a minority. I think there's a lot of men that would say it. Now, again, they're going to say it for different reasons. There's going to be a variety of reasons that they would prefer to play as a man, but some of the reasons worse than others. You know, some of the reasons worse than others. But I think there's actually a lot of men that would say that. No, I prefer to play as a dude. Yeah, I tend to. I bet you if you polled gamers across all the spectrums, a lot of dudes would say that. They'd be like, yeah, I avoid games if it's a chick. They would say it. Have you spent any time in like a Call of Duty lobby? Like, my gosh, like they would. They're young. They're a little ignorant. Maybe they, there's some slightedness to their existence. Maybe they are, feeling somewhat, maybe they feel like they're, gravitating towards pockets of the internet where they would identify as like an incel. They would feel slighted by the opposite gender, and that creates an anger and an antagonism and an aversion that they would then say, well, I don't want to play as a woman. This is not I don't think this is an uncommon thing. I don't. I think that's why it's important to have the conversation and to try to educate people. Resident Evil is a top 20 franchise of all time, dominated by female leads. Yeah, but that doesn't mean there aren't large swaths of men that think this and don't buy games like this. The success of a franchise doesn't mean, like, look at how well Horizon Zero Dawn did. That doesn't refute the reality that people like this exist. You know what I mean? It's a thing. There are people that think it. I think sometimes it's totally harmless. I think there are guys that are just like, I just prefer to play as a guy. I don't have anything against women. I think it's great that there's all these games where women can play, but I prefer to play as a guy. I think a lot of them are probably harmless. It's just something that they prefer, right? Just something that they prefer. But I think there is also a large portion of the gaming population where, men, if you polled all the men that say, no, I actually tend to avoid games where I would play as a woman, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a good portion of them that are nasty about it. Right? If you're not nasty about it, then it's pretty important to make that clear, right? Because you're dissolving this notion that, like, it's a hateful thing. I'm refuting the idea that there's large swaths of them that are influential. I don't think you are, Eugene. I don't think you are, because just because a game sells very, very well doesn't mean you got to consider, like, the quantity of sales of one game is not representative of the global gaming population. I don't think so. Now, I would say this. I'll concede the point that these guys are a predominantly American Western thing. The minute you leave America, this is not a common thing. It isn't. Just look at the Japanese games, and it's very clear that dudes over there have no problem playing as a woman. They in fact, they probably prefer it, right? And there's a whole cultural thing there with the appearance of the women and how they're dressed and how they're built, right? So this is a predominantly American thing and a Western thing. And I do think it's fading, I do think it's fading. I'm nasty and I'll just say it. Shut up, you effing nerd, and play something. You know, I would play something, but there aren't any games where I can, you know, smack around and destroy ignorant young men. So I prefer to do it in my chat. So thank you for obliging me. What happened to you to make you this way, right? Why are you angry? Why would you? That's not a way to live your life, you know. To come in and be nasty and say nasty things. What made you this way? There's a better way to live, man. You never played bully? Yeah, Mama Rad's gonna get you, man. Say something again, bruh. I have a friend, he's a military guy, he's man's man, testosterone bro, and every game that lets him create his character, he chooses to be a female. Right, yeah. Listen, there is nothing wrong with being like, look, man, I like my character to be a pretty lady, you know? Big old burly dude that could, you know, rip a phone book in half, but he might like to play as a pretty lady. That's fine, you know? Maybe he likes wearing high heels. I don't give a frick. I just think that a group that likes to push the trigger button and make the issue out of something that never was an issue because some folks cry about female protagonists. I don't know. I don't think that these issues trend, and I don't think that these issues get traction on Reddit and other places because a small minority of people. I don't think so. Like, let's look at it this way. Let's say that, and we know this, we acknowledge that the amount of people that go to the forums and Reddit to complain about a game like Halo, we acknowledge that's a minority. That's not the entire group of people and population that plays Halo. It's a very, very small minority. But what do we say about that? It represents a larger body of people because generally people that play Halo are going to have similar thoughts about Halo. So if 100 people in a day come to the forums and say, golly, this map is so frustrating, or this weapon is so busted, as it gets traction, you would start to think, this represents a larger group of people, even though a minority is bringing it to our attention on the forums. So, if a group of people tend to be nasty and say nasty things and get really gross and hateful about female protagonists, I think it's ignorant to be like, well, it's just them. It's just this small little pocket of haters on Reddit. I don't think so. I think they represent other people that are out there. 1 out of 3 men prefer playing female characters. That means that 2 out of 3 prefer the other, right? Wouldn't that mean that the majority, 66%, are on the other end? If 1/3 prefer playing as a female, what's the other 2/3 think? I guess would be my question. I love playing as characters other than men in games because for the most part, you get a chance to understand another POV. The gender of the protagonist means nothing to me as long as the game is fun and the story is good. I could be a bear with a bird on their back. I don't care. Yeah, I agree. Let's be realistic. Game's always been a man world. No, I don't agree with that. I don't. When you consider the global spectrum of games and who plays and the types of games that are made, no, it's not. It's certainly not a man's world. No. In the West, yes. Yeah. The percentages of men that consume gaming content on the internet, yeah, it's largely men. In the West, in America, that is true. You leave here and it all changes. Dramatically changes. The number of Asian women who play games is enormous comparatively. And the number that consume the content, I'd actually be interested in that. Like Japanese or Korean streamers and YouTubers, what's their demographic breakdown? Is it more evenly split between the men and the women? I would be very interested in that statistic. It's very, very much down the middle and once you go global. Very much. But in the West and in America, it was just more woven into the toys and the way things were marketed. So more young boys grew up playing video games than young girls did, and it creates an imbalance. This is why the equal outcomes people don't understand that they're fighting a losing battle. They're just fighting a losing battle. It would be like trying to go into a hospital and be like, well, we need equal outcome here, so we need the same number of male nurses to female nurses. You're fighting a losing battle. There's a sociological and psychological trend that's going to make that near impossible for you to do that. This whole like equal outcome thing in the developer world. Well, we need more women in the developer space and upper C-suite positions, and there's not as many of them. Well, that's because men have been so mean. No, it's far more complex than that. You're fighting a losing battle. It's noble to say, we want as many opportunities, we want equal opportunity, we want to be treated and judged on merit. That's fine. But the minute you start going equal outcome, you're jacking the whole thing up. It's like you're fighting a losing battle. You have less people coming into that field of work to help you hit those numbers that you want to hit. And that's one of the reasons why when this stuff comes up, there's a video, a G4 video trending right now, and I followed her because I thought she was very well spoken. She spoke seemingly very extemporaneously about how she's treated so differently in the gaming environment. Like, she'll read the same script as a guy, and then she'll get way more criticism and be treated, as if, oh, she's not as pretty as the last G4, like Olivia Munn or whatever. And I thought it was a pretty good speech, but I also thought some of this, again, is you're pushing against 30 to 40 years of cultural and sociological conditioning that a lot of these men don't even realize is there. That doesn't excuse it, but again, browbeating and scolding and castigating and name-calling, it will just entrench them in general. I put 1,000 hours in Fallout 4. I tried to romance everyone I could, made the game longer and more interesting. Yeah, games like that where you have all those choices, sure. If you're more open to less traditional lifestyles especially, then you don't think anything of it, It's funny how it goes one way, usually against men. The NFL and the NBA are about 80%. Should we make that equal? That's another point that gets raised. It's like, look at professional sports. If you go equal outcome, you're going to destroy professional sports. It's not going to work. You would destroy virtually every NFL or NBA team in existence if you went for equal outcome. When you go equal opportunity and the results and outcomes are based on merit, that works. Yeah, sure, anybody can come play. Yeah. We're not going to keep anybody out. Anybody can come play. Sure. Who makes the team? Well, that's based on merit. But your team is 80% this. So, we want to win. What are you talking about? We want to put points on the board. We're trying to win games here. We're trying to win a championship. So, we picked the best wide receivers and the best quarterbacks and the best running backs, and we didn't look at their last names or their skin color. What are you talking about? What is this? What are you talking about? Anybody can come in and play, and then based on how good you are, we'll put you in varying positions. But I want to be on the team. Are you any good? No. It doesn't work. What about coaching? Well, I don't know if there's trends in coaching. That again could be the results of something that we're still not under. We're not out from underneath the shadow of what was going on, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. We're not out from underneath that shadow just yet. So, but when these subjects come up, Horizon Forbidden West, Aloy looking a certain way or whatever the frick, I just am always like, I'd rather seek to understand than just scold and name call somebody. You know what I mean? Frost from G4 has some of the worst takes when it comes to gaming. Kids will always do and write crap on the internet. Well, the point that is her name Frost? I followed her last night. I'd never heard of her before, but I followed her last night. just to kind of, you know, follow the story or whatever. Yeah, Frost Curim or whatever her name, Frost Curin. The point she was making is a lot of the times her bad takes or whatever she's reading is something that somebody else wrote, and other people read the same scripts and get less hate. You know? I really miss the wrestling games and original Wii Maker when everybody had fun making crazy, fun-looking characters. Yeah, the Wii, your little characters on the Wii were pretty fun. Yeah, Fruscurin, yeah. Thought about that when having the Lost Ark discussion. Should 2K make LeBron look like this to appease that side of the world's market? Well, no, because he's a real person. What people were saying in that discussion, Scotty, is, well, it's a fantasy land, so who the frick cares? But if LeBron James is a real person, so no, you wouldn't change his appearance in the game. That would be odd. Zubair says, I'm saying 80% of players are black and a handful of head coaches are ever black. Playing is a meritocracy, coaching still isn't. Yeah, and that's why I said we're still living under the shadow of, more than likely, you'd have to break down the systemic opportunities probably within the higher education systems with respect to board members are probably still pretty old at a lot of these schools, and there's probably less opportunities. Yeah, probably less opportunities for men to aspire and to get into those roles because we also have to consider this too, Zubair, that I wonder if they're funneled towards the playing because of other trends that we see, and since you funnel them towards playing, the white guys are like, I can't compete. I'm gonna pursue coaching. I wonder if it's less systemically bad and more just correlating to the results themselves. Does that make sense? You're gonna have more white dudes that are like, I can't play. I'm not as fast as that guy. I'm not as strong as that guy. I'm gonna pursue coaching. I wonder if the trend of pursuit is what dries up how many like men that you would say come from minorities are coaches. It might not be as sinister as we might think. It might just be like, well, of course, most of them pursue playing because they're built for it a lot of the times. They're faster, they're stronger, their musculature is easier to just build up great muscle mass. So yeah, they pursue playing over coaching. I'm just pure speculating that could be a factor. That you have a greater reservoir of young men who don't make it, so they coach, and a greater reservoir of men who see the potential of like, oh, I can play. Like, how many young black men are hoping to make it to the NBA or the NFL? They don't care about coaching. Why? Because they see the prestige and the honor of Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, and they grow up and see Bo Jackson and Jerry Rice. They see men that look like them being celebrated as these warriors. Well, they're going to set their sights on that, not necessarily coaching. That could be a reason for the trend. What could be one element of the trend? The argument falls apart a bit when there are many black assistant coaches and position coaches that never get the chance to be the head coach. And that could be the other element. Like I said, there could still be systemic things. We're still living under the shadow of the 40s and 50s. We haven't got out from underneath of it yet. It still is impacting how things go, for sure. It's never as simple as one thing, and that's why these situations are so difficult to discuss, because people want to whittle them down to one thing. It's like, well, no, there could be a whole host of things that led to this. Systemic things, nasty things, pure happenstance, coincidence, correlating things, and it all leads to this trend. How do you fix it? You don't just start promoting people to hit a quota. That's not going to fix it. If it's a systemic issue, you got to analyze the system, not the results, right? If you had a machine that was spitting out remotes that were supposed to be this color, and they were spitting them out, and they were gray, well, how are you going to fix it? Well, let's slap paint on. No, you would fix the machine. You would say, well, there's something. The system, the machine itself, somewhere along the line, it's mixing the paint wrong. That's what you would do instead of like, you wouldn't take your inventory and be like, no, it's fine. We'll just fix the inventory. We'll just fix the results. Wait, the whole game is out? B. McKnight, the Horizon Forbidden West full game has leaked. No spoilers in this stream. We're warning people about the spoilers. They basically used a jailbroken PS4 somehow to get it. And the good news is that the screenshots on PS4 look really good. There were people concerned about, like, is this game going to look good on PS4 or not? So, yes, the full game has leaked. There are people who can play it. So be fair warned, you might stumble upon footage or story elements. Like Horizon Forbidden West gameplay, we've gotten plenty of footage, but you might start seeing footage leak that has not been seen before. Because people could then, play it on their PS4 and capture it. Now, anybody who tries to post it, it's going to get taken down due to copyright. So, I always love it when a black head coach is hired and they're given the absolute worst team in the league, and people complain about they're a terrible coach, never get a winning team. Right. It's like when you try to get hired and they're like, well, we need somebody with experience. And you're like, I can't get experience. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we can't hire you until you get experience. And you're like, this feels like I'm a trap. Well, that's a trap, is it not? Well, we haven't seen any good coaches in this spectrum, so give them a crappy team. Well, you're making things significantly harder, and it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, well, they don't make for very good coaches. Well, how do you know that? You keep giving them crappy teams. Of course they look bad, right? Nobody wants equality. People want equality of outcomes, the benefits without the work and sacrifice. No, Revive Farmer, I don't. I don't think that that's true. I think that most people just want the opportunity. I do. I think hardworking, ambitious people, they just want the opportunity. And then pundits, talking heads, and armchair sociologists and cultural analysts are focusing on the outcomes. Why? Because it's far simpler and it's a lot easier to look good, to be like, well, our C-suite is this percentage of women and this percentage of minorities. What the frick? That seems like you waved a wand. Doesn't feel like you changed anything. Well, that's easier and it makes you look good, right? So I actually think most people, I think most people that get passionate about this, I think they just want the opportunity. They just want the opportunity. What did I say when I knew I was good at shoutcasting? What did I always say? I just need the opportunity. Just put me on the desk and I will show you what I'm made of. And what happened? The minute I got contracted and was able to do it, when I was in New York, the entire production staff was like, this is your first time doing this? They were like, what? I literally had people on production staff saying, you're better than basically most of the people that we typically hire. I had people literally being like, this cannot be your first time doing this. I'm like, well, I practiced. I said, but this is my first time doing it. I've not professionally been contracted to shoutcast until now. I knew. I was like, I just need the opportunity and I'll show you what I can do. I think most people, that's their attitude. They have the work ethic, they have the knowledge, they've got the strength, they've got the will. Like, just give me the opportunity and I will climb your ranks. So, I think the commentary on it gets hijacked, though. It's easier. It's easier to focus on outcomes. I'm dying. A couple of days ago, he claimed that Spears and Black Panther was this, and now he's claiming genetic differences in superiority based on... I think you meant to put melanin, not melatonin levels. Did he say melatonin? I would imagine he means melanin. Melatonin is the chemical that releases that helps you sleep. Oh, if you're new here, we get into some pretty serious subjects. Gaming obviously touches on real life. It touches on culture and society and Horizon Forbidden West and Aloy and what she looks like was a significant part of conversation a while ago. And so I don't shy away from these subjects. I am a safe for work broadcaster. If you're enjoying the show, you can show me some appreciation by smashing the like button. Subscribing is free. Subscribing is totally free, and that shows the support of the channel. I'll be in your sub feed all week with variety gaming news topics like this. We have a show this afternoon about Halo and the update from the developers about Big Team Battle and some other really interesting phrasing that they used. And so that will be this afternoon. Oh, you mistyped. Melanin. Okay. I think they trimmed Aloy down. I don't think they trimmed her down. She did look a little bit like more muscular, but I didn't think they thinned her out. People took issue with her face looking a little bit like swollen or more chubby or something. What I have noticed is before 1 is 0. Before 1 is 0. Oh, I get it. Before 1 says, many of the games that have female leads do not make the game about them being female. It is usually just a story where the gender could have been the lead. Yeah, there are elements of Horizon Zero Dawn where you can tell at least two of the characters like her, and they think that you can tell they think that she's attractive, and she just seems like she's not interested. She kind of comes across as asexual. She kind of comes across as like, I'm not interested in anybody. I'm interested in discovery and exploration and power. Her ambition does not seem to be, easily distracted by a pretty face or a strong man. She seems like she's got her sights set on something else. She's like almost like a career-driven person, which I think that is a real thing. But there were times that it did feel like, oh, this person likes her or kind of digs her, and she didn't seem to be affected by it, or she seemed to brush it off, like that's not what she's looking for, right? Her face was fat. They slimmed her face down to give her more of a feminine appearance. They've not changed her face. What do you know? We looked at the pictures the other day and the in-game samples. They've not done anything to her face. She looks the same as when it first came out. She's a clone, the first clone. It makes sense that she's different. She has no romantic ambitions. Yeah, you can't romance people with her. She doesn't care. That's not a part of her worldview. Like, she doesn't care about those things. It's very clear. People grabbed a really bad screenshot. Some even edited it. Yeah, you have to wonder why some people squashed it and edited it to make her look chubbier. Like, why would they do that? You know what I mean? People are saying she might be a new lesbian character. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, that doesn't seem to be part of her story. A part of her story does not seem to be that she requires romantic companionship. She seems like she's more interested in making friends, because if you think about her backstory, she didn't have friends. She was an outcast, right? So I feel like it's more important for her to have friends and almost like a familial type unit than a romantic relationship. That just seems to be the way they're building the character. That they're not interested in building a romance angle for her. They're more interested in being like, no, she wants friendship, companionship, she wants family, because she doesn't have those things. The void in her life, the void in her sort of existence as a child was she lacked friendship and family. And so I don't think, you also have to consider some of her first engagements with boys or young men is nasty. The one boy throws a rock at her, and he's mouthy when they're in the one place and being gross and being condescending to her. And one of the first people that's nice to her is another woman. So I think her companionship might flourish and be a little bit stronger with women, but I don't think they're creating romantic entanglements for her. I don't think that that's coming. The entertainment value would be worth it. Oh, if they do make her that? Yeah, because I don't understand. I just don't understand guys getting so upset about that. That's so bizarre to me. I don't understand that. From what we know about adult entertainment trends, I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense to me. It truly doesn't. A lot of these guys will consume content where that's happening, right? But then if the main character in a show or a celebrity comes out, you know what I'm saying? I don't get that. It's suddenly like this big tragedy. I'm like, what? It doesn't make sense to me at all. Noble beast. That's good. That's good. She was obsessed with finding out who she was and where she came from. Now that she knows that, she might be more open. I just have a sneaking suspicion that they have no interest in creating a romance angle for her character. That's just my gut instinct, is that they're not interested in that. I think she's more interesting as a loner. You know? I think she's more interesting as a loner. I don't have any... I think it'd be awesome if she, you know, found somebody and became romantically entangled. Like, that'd be cool for her. Like, you kind of want that for her, like, to find happiness and that deep level of companionship. But at the same time, it's like, she's also really cool as a loner, like, being on her own kind of a thing. I get annoyed whenever there's a romantic scene in a film or a TV show. It just doesn't add anything for me. It depends. I think it goes too far, because it's like, do we really need to see this? Like, does it add to the story? Like, I don't need to see thrusting to know what happens behind, you know, once the bedroom door closes. Like, I don't need those details. I kind of know. I kind of get it. You know what I mean? It would be like, hey, we need to go to the store. Okay. And you show them get in the car and turn the key and back out of the driveway and put on their blinker and go to the store. You don't have to do that. You just say, I got to go to the store. And then in the next scene, they're at the store. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see all this. These details, they don't seem to be necessary. Let her be asexual. I think there's even lore that would make a sense for her to be asexual because of her backstory. I think it would make sense for her to be to not be attracted to people in that way. I think it'd be fine for them to be like, no, she doesn't. That's not a part of her backstory. It's not a part of her makeup. She doesn't care about that. It's not important to her. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's I think I that's why I liked the first game's story so much. Like, you were discovering her and her backstory along with her. I thought that was really, really cool. You know, I thought it was interesting to be like, oh, and then, you know, big twists and turns, like, oh, no way. Like, I really, really liked it. We're getting, oh wow, we got great search results today. If you guys found this video by doing a YouTube search, we welcome you in. Probably haven't been asking for people to hit the sub button enough. If you're enjoying the conversation, I am a Safe for Work broadcaster. It is totally free to subscribe. I'll be in your sub feed all week if you subscribe and hit the bell button, doing variety gaming news coverage. Yesterday, we covered a From Software game that got leaked. We covered Take-Two buying Zynga. Recently, we also covered new updates about Lost Ark and New World, Elden Ring, the Nightingale game, Horizon VR, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 leaks. We cover a lot of different content here, so be sure to hit subscribe. That way you don't miss out on our coverage. And thank you so much for being here. Because I am a Safe for Work broadcaster, a lot of people throw me on in the background like video game radio. So welcome in. We appreciate you being here. If you're a fan of From Software games, you'll be glad to know that every Friday is From Friday. If you're a fan of Halo, we've been doing Halo custom games on Friday night. So a lot of different topics and coverage for you here. So thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure and take the poll at the top of the chat. In light of the fact that Horizon Forbidden West full game leaked, we want to know, are you going to look for Horizon Forbidden West spoilers? Is that something that you would seek out? 22% are saying yes, and I like to hear why. If you clicked yes, make sure you're subbed so you can talk in the chat. Why would you want to seek them out? If people found traffic as exciting, maybe we would be seeing more of the traveling to the store. That's true. That is true. I'm not trying to downplay how, exciting it is to see people, have a little bit of a romp, but I just find it to be unnecessary in the storytelling. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. What are people saying here? I hope that they let Aloy get married, get pregnant, have a baby, create another main character for future games where Aloy teaches her ways. See, that I like, but you know what I like better, Tommy? Is if she finds somebody, there's all these villages and tribes and stuff. I hope she finds a little girl that has been abandoned and she adopts her. I think that would be way more fitting. It would make sense, given her backstory. It would evoke the motherly instinct in her, but at the same time, it would be like, yes, this is legit. Because then you could have the next character look a lot different than Aloy. It could be from one of the tribes where they have like different customs and clothing and stuff. Because some of the tribes in this, they look so freaking cool. Like the one tribe, they're like all tattooed and stuff. I think that'd be awesome. I think that would be awesome. Adopt a boy and name him Rost. Yeah, I don't think people would like that. I don't think people would like handing the game off to a boy or a man. I think that would be like, hey, come on, man. Like, let Aloy pass a torch to her daughter. I think that would be cool. That'll be the premise for the live service expansion. Yeah. Exactly. Chat is attracting some sad dudes. I tend to, you guys might have noticed, I'm not really getting into like a scold orientation here. I let them kind of hang out as long as they're not being like blatantly offensive, because I'd rather them slowly just be around people that don't think that way, because that's how they'll probably change, instead of just scolding them and banning them, right? I didn't play the first one, so I have no care about being spoiled for the second. Well, you missed out on the first one, I gotta tell you. If you're just tuning in, we want to hear from you. Horizon Forbidden West spoilers, like, would you seek them out? Why or why not? I thought the first game was very, very well done with the story. Totally agree. It'd be rad if she adopts an outcast kid. Yeah, because with this war and this infection and this like there's like some woman that's invading, and she's got all the different like new animals and stuff. I think that'd be really, really cool if they go in and like disrupt and destroy some tribe, and she finds some kid that she takes under her wing. Like, that'd be dope, Trying to find all the different things that are being said in chat. No matter what your preference is, you can have children either biologically or through adoption. Shocking, I know. Yeah. Gaming and movie media is trying to normalize this stuff as normal as men and women in the world. That has no impact in the next years, but decades. Just my opinion. So, I'm confused. So, like, I'm really confused why that I don't understand why that would necessarily be bad, to be like, these people exist. Like, what? Like, let's say I don't approve of the lifestyle of people who are drug dealers, right? But drug dealers exist, right? I don't approve of like people standing on a street corner and getting into a car with a gentleman, you know, and earning a living doing that. I think that that's terrible. I think it's bad for them. I think it's awful, right? And we should be trying to save people out of that. Okay, having a movie where that's in it is just acknowledging that exists, right? So if you have a movie or a TV show that just acknowledge certain types of people exist, like, why is that horrible? Why is that bad? I don't understand. You could even say I don't approve, right? What about a movie about a guy and he's just a playboy, man. He's just a playboy, and he is just every other night he's with a different person. Now, there's plenty of reasons to say why that might not be healthy. It might not be psychologically healthy. It might not be physically healthy. It could be very bad for you. You could come from an actual belief set and say, I don't agree with that kind of a lifestyle. Well, men like that exist, though, don't they? They tend to be main characters in movies a lot of the times. Like, I don't know, James Bond. Like, so are you okay with that? Because there's plenty of people that wouldn't approve of that lifestyle. They would say, no, you should be monogamous. You should be with one person. You know, there are people that would talk about that. There's plenty of evidence that that's good for society and good for civilization. It's good for people to be more grounded, right? So is their presence in a movie a problem? Because they're in lots of movies. I don't know. If you're just tuning in, looking for Horizon Forbidden West full game leaks, we are not getting into spoilers, but we're discussing how it happened. We're getting into some heavy sledding and some heavy territory here because there were early criticisms of Aloy's appearance. We even had somebody ask this morning, like, what do I think about somebody who won't play a game if the lead character is a woman? And so we're talking about some of those trends and beliefs in like entertainment and gaming. It is a pretty serious subject, but we're trying to keep it we're trying to keep it intelligent, lighthearted, and respectful. So we appreciate you being here. If you like these types of conversations, if you like video game news, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button. Let's shoot for 300 likes because the viewership continues to climb, so welcome. It continues to climb, so welcome on in. Be sure to hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. Lono, the reason is because studies have shown that the best thing for societies are stable families. The farther away we get from that, the worse it gets on many levels. That's too new, actually, Brutal. We don't know that. We don't know that. That a stable, non-traditional family, we don't know if that's bad for society because it's too new of a concept. It's too new. So the struggle there is so much of that research is going to be based on how damaging and detrimental it is for society when there's an overwhelming or disproportionate amount of single parents, right? Like, that's an issue. When you find in like this is obviously a huge problem in like urban centers, like pockets of areas of cities where you have an overwhelming number of single mothers and how awful that is for them and the children and society. It's bad. It's damaging to the fabric of that culture and that society. And so a lot of the research would make you think that, like, okay, well then, this would be better. You're right. Let me go more broad. 2-parent families are better. Exactly. That's what the research points to, right? From everything I've looked at, the research points to 2-parent family units are significantly better for both society and the children. And that's mainly due to the challenges that come and the difficulties that come from being a single parent. You're not less than, you simply face an enormous amount of challenges. It would be like saying, a person who loses their arm is going to face challenges and have a harder time doing things that somebody who hasn't lost their arm, they're not going to face those challenges. You're not like less human or subhuman. You're just going to face a lot of challenges. And a single parent unit will face significant challenges. So I think most of it is, yes, single versus two-parent. And I don't think anybody would argue against that. That stands to reason. Like, I think that's conventional wisdom to be like, well, of course. Of course. Of course they're going to face more challenges and have more problems. The kid Teb, Varl, and Nil had nice friendships with Aloy. She doesn't have time for that world. She doesn't have time for that. The world is at stake, and she's literally, figuratively, the key to saving it. Maybe DLC will expand on friends. Yeah, I appreciate that, Troll the Trolls. Thank you for the $10 tip, and I think you're a brand new subscriber today, so that's very generous to subscribe and tip in the same day. Welcome, and good input. I do. This is something that I love. I think we need to recapture this. Good friendships, right? Good friendships are excellent stories. Like, this is why I think Samwise Gamgee is like one of the greatest characters in the Lord of the Rings, because he is such a true and loyal and brave friend, right? And that's I think his love and his compassion and his relationship with Frodo, I think some dudes thought it was like weird. And it's like, it's not weird. That's like a really good friend. And that's just, we need more stories like that. Every story doesn't have to break down into like, well, who's their love interest? Man, good stories of friendship can be far more powerful in some respects, you know? I think it's more relatable to tell a love story because we're always, I think a lot of times that's the way people think of themselves in that spectrum of like, well, I need a mate, I need a partner. But, I don't know, man. Really good stories of friendships I think are just as compelling. Yeah, I push back on what you said, Brutal, but I'm not going to put you in a box. If anything, we're showing that the two-parent thing isn't enough. What do you mean? Aloy's like Samus? Right. Aloy's like Samus. She don't need no man. She don't need no man, that's right. That's what frustrated me so much in the second Wonder Woman movie. It was like, I'm a 40-year-old white dude. I should not be the one saying she don't need no man. Like, that shouldn't be something that I say and mean strongly. Like, she don't need no man. What is this? The second Wonder Woman movie is horrible. They tie her entire character arc to a dead dude. It's truly awful. This is Diana we're talking about. She's basically a demigod. What are you doing? She doesn't need a dude. I was extremely angry about that. To this day, I'm angry. They've really harmed the quintessential, iconic, perfect cast Wonder Woman. It's like they can't help themselves. They make one movie and they're like, Wonder Woman's awesome. Man of Steel, Superman's awesome. They're like, well, in the next movie, we're going to completely screw it up. It's like, golly frick. She couldn't be more perfect for the role. And you jacked up the second movie. And you jacked up the second movie where Superman showed up. Jiminy Christmas. It's frustrating. So I don't see a need for Aloy to have romance, right? I don't see a need for that. She can let her be all on her own, you know, and like maybe take on an apprentice or something, like we said, like adopt a kid or an apprentice or something. Something tells me I don't want to know what this tangent is about. It's actually been, I think, a pretty good discussion, Wheezy. We've obviously had some people in here trying to bait me and saying, like, you know, cliche, stereotypical, you know, internet troll tropes that I've just largely ignored. We had somebody ask the question very early because we were talking about the Horizon Forbidden West full game, you know, it leaks. Are you going to seek out spoilers and blah, blah, blah? And then there was somebody that said, well, what do you think about people that don't want to play a game if it's going to be a woman or somebody of different ethnicity from them? And so I basically said that there's a lot of people that feel that way and they don't feel it in a malicious way. They're just like, I would just prefer to play as a guy. I just like to, you know, they're not mean-spirited about it. It's just something that they're more accustomed to. But then there's also people that are nasty about it, you know. They won't play a game like, you know, Deathloop. I'm not going to play as a black guy, right? Or, well, they won't play Lara Croft. Like, I'm not going to play as a woman. And I have said this morning numerous times, rather than label and name call, I would rather seek to understand and try and, like, dismantle what that person thinks a little bit. to help them, maybe think differently or behave differently, rather than, and what we talked about earlier, I think this is very important. It's very important. If someone's like a 3 or a 4 on like the nasty scale, maybe they make some nasty jokes about women, and maybe they have an aversion to playing as a woman, but they're like a 3 or a 4. They're not that nasty about it. If you talk to them as if they are super nasty about it, they're going to gravitate towards the more nasty people that think that way. There are guys that are like an 8 or a 9. They're nasty. They're gross. They say horrendously awful things to women in lobbies of video games, and they're frustrated young men that have been probably rejected too many times, and now they have this horrible anger, antagonism in them, right? I will never play as a woman, right? Well, if you treat the guy that's at like a 3 or a 4 like he's an 8 or a 9, he's probably going to gravitate to the people that are an 8 or a 9. A natural psychological gravitation will take place, because you're instead of having a conversation with the person and trying to understand, and like in seeking to understand them, and then maybe like, oh well, I guess that makes sense. I feel like you're really missing out though. My gosh, these games are good. You're really missing out. I gave the example of 2 men that might go into a lunchroom and they don't want to sit next to you because of your skin color. And one man might not want to because he was raised in a home that fostered fear and anxiety, and he's not hateful or malicious, he's ignorant. And then the other guy is nasty about it and hateful, and he has contempt in his heart for you. Well, they're both doing the same thing, but one is far more likely to probably become your friend and have barriers broken down through like a conversation. The other is obviously not probably going to. I actually wonder though if both would be far more likely to be brought down from their position and become a more empathetic and loving person through a conversation. I feel like the label and the sharp response probably reinvigorates both. Right? Don't matter. They can't be. Shut up, Wheezy. I wouldn't sit next to you in the lunchroom for completely different reasons, Wheezy. I just find you annoying. No, I didn't watch Arcane. No. As a female, most female protagonists haven't been done well. I love Aloy, but out of all the books and games with female leads, I can count on my hands the really good female leads. I actually think there's maybe more than you realize. I don't know. All the female leads in Resident Evil, Lara Croft. I'm trying to think of something, and obviously Returnal is very new, but Returnal. There was a bunch more that got listed in that one thread where that Bloomberg article got absolutely shredded. People like, what the frig are you talking about? There's been plenty of great female leads. I would agree that they're lacking, right? I like your family more anyways. I would agree that they're lacking, but I don't think that they're non-existent, right? Yeah, Kana and Bridge of Spirits, Control, good examples. Yes. Senua, yes. Senua, man. Frickin' warrior. Alien Isolation, yeah. So probably lacking, but not non-existent. Yeah. We'd eat the lunch that you paid for, Madam said. Resident Evil do female leads really well. Yeah. I really liked Jessie in Control. I did. I thought she was very well designed. Like, they made her look like just like a real, like, it's unsettling because she looks sort of just like normal office clothes, office setting, but there's something about her. Like, it was something with her eyes. She had like a, I don't know. She was captivating in like a really interesting way. It was like she was more mysterious than she was like, because certainly, like, I think Gal Gadot is just absolutely like breathtaking and captivating for a variety of reasons. But then you look at Jessie's character in Control, and I thought she was captivating in a more sort of mystical, mysterious way. It was like you just felt yourself drawn to her, like looking at her. You're like, what's going on here? I really liked it. I really liked how mysterious and confusing and even unsettling the opening of Control was. I thought it was very, very cool. It's a personal preference for some people, I guess. I personally think almost every game I can remember with a female protagonist has been a good game and an enjoyable experience. Yeah. Yeah, there's far more bad games with a male protagonist than there are. It's like every game with a female protagonist is good. Like, they got a pretty good batting average, even though they don't get to go to bat as much. They have a better batting average. Their games seem to be a little bit, they seem to be a little bit better. Most women characters are horribly written. Sometimes win, kind of write them. You write for what you know. That whole story. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I would need examples of like poorly written women that you think were written by like a feminist man. This Ayagami dude, is this a troll? Yeah, I was gonna check how old their account was, because they have been seemingly they've been trying to bait me and chat all morning. They made their account September of last year. They have everything locked up pretty tight, so they don't have anything really visible on their profile. Barrier decided to bop him, so yeah, I'm fine with it. He was trying to bait me pretty much all morning, and the account's fairly new, so it seemed like they were just seeking to get reactions, and I wasn't giving it to them, so they started kind of going after people in the chat. I have noticed that it's pretty easy to pick out like somebody who's not here for discussion. They're just here to like cause trouble. If I ignore them, they start going after chat. It's like they don't get what they want from me, so they start picking fights with chat. So I did notice that. How one man convinced 200. Yeah, to give up their robes. Yeah, he does it through just sitting down, and he has like dinner and talks with them, and yeah. Daryl Davis. I think Daryl Davis is proof positive that conversation and understanding is usually the path. And this is why I've changed my posture a little bit when these subjects come up, because I know people say things, and a lot of times they just want a reaction. But I do think sometimes it does stem from something that is damaged, you know, something that is that's problematic, you know. Gaming females are miles better than film female leads, two different leagues. I don't know. There was a trend that I noticed in television where they kept trying to do a police officer detective kind of show, like a crime drama, and they kept trying to make it like a strong, sort of flippant lead that was a woman. I think there was at least 2 or 3 of them where she was also blonde. It was like they were all very similar, and they all did horribly. And it felt like it was because they were trying way too hard to break the formula. I think that's one of the reasons why Mariska Hargitay, I think that's why she has been so long-standing, because it doesn't feel like they're trying to create something. It just sort of happened over time. Her character, Olivia Benson, I believe is her name. I think she's like one of the highest paid actors in television. She gets paid a ridiculous amount, like, per episode. And I feel like it just kind of grew into something organic and natural in SVU. And when they just tried to do it, like, we're gonna have a show that just breaks the mold, none of them, they all failed. They didn't go anywhere. It was like, what the frick is this? Like, none of them got renewed. I don't even remember the names of the shows. I just remember they kept promoting them, and I'm like, this seems a lot like the last show that got canceled, you know? And then it would get canceled like in the middle of the season. So I do think there are times where it's been kind of cliche and kind of forced, but I also think that like there's plenty of really, really great stories that have been written with great female leads. I think the female characters in The Walking Dead are like 10 times better than the dudes. My gosh. Except they keep making Michonne kind of like, I don't like what they did with Michonne. But for a while, Michonne, Carol, Oh, they brought her back. Lauren Cohen. I really like her. They brought her back. What's her name? I still think she'd make a better Tomb Raider. She'd make a better Lara Croft than the woman that they cast. I forget her freaking name. Mayor of Easttown is one of the best things ever. Women were so awesome in that show. What, Walking Dead? Maggie, thank you. Yeah. I really like Maggie. When she was like wielding like an axe and just busting up zombies, it was like I saw it. I was like, wait a minute, she's Lara Croft. She would be perfect. She has the accent. She freaking looks like her. She'd be amazing as Lara Croft. I think the woman they casted fine, but I think Lauren Cohen was just a shoo-in for the role. Negan's the best character in the show. Oh, he is, but I think they've more consistently had really, really good women in that show. I think the men are kind of, I don't know. I've not liked them as much. Yeah, The Walking Dead, they carried everything after the prison. Yeah. Negan is king. Yeah. My wife only started watching The Walking Dead because of Negan. She'd be like, are we watching Negan tonight? I'm like, you mean The Walking Dead? She's like, no, like, are we watching Negan? That's what she called the show. She called it Negan. I was like, I don't know if I'd get away with that, but okay, let's watch it. Walking Dead fell off so hard. We're waiting for whatever season they're in now to hit Netflix, because I won't pay for it. I know it's not going to be that great, but we want to watch it just to see everything, but I'm not going to pay for it. I already paid for Netflix. I'll just wait. Can we get 300 likes on this video? How close are we? Or is it lagging again? Yeah, we need 20 more likes if you're enjoying the conversation in the show today. We're kind of off the beaten path, but if you were tuning in for Horizon Forbidden West full game leaked, we have a poll at the top of the chat. We're not doing any spoilers today in the stream. We don't do that. But we want to know, will you seek out spoilers? Is that something that you're going to seek out and look for, and why? Most people obviously saying no, they will not. Horizon Forbidden West spoilers will likely start showing up in the coming weeks. So, you wouldn't get away with it? Good to know where you stand. Yeah, I wouldn't. We're very comfortable having those conversations, though, because when we were watching Downton Abbey, I made it very clear that I thought Sybil was just gorgeous. I was like, I think she is the prettiest of the group. Everybody was fawning over Mary. I'm like, I don't know what y'all are talking about, man. I was like, Sybil is just absolutely stunning. And so we've never been like uncomfortable expressing like if we think, because I'll talk about somebody being handsome just as quick as that. I'm like, wow, he is a handsome man. There's a couple characters in Downton that are, very good looking. I'm usually in Downton most jealous of the voices. Carson and Matthew. Oh, I love their voices. If I could have Matthew's voice, golly, he could read anything and it would sound so rich. It's just, it's such a lovely voice. I stopped watching Walking Dead after what happened to Oh yeah, that was awful. I did not like what they did there. We were crying during Downton Abbey. Oh yeah, I cry almost every episode. She throws me under the bus in Discord. I'm a crybaby. I don't try to hide it. I've always been very emotional, and we're coming up on 4 years of therapy, and man, it takes down all those defenses, and you're just like, yeah, I cry watching stuff like that. It gets to me. It does, no doubt. There's too many daughters in the show. There's too many daughters. Like I get busted up the minute there's kids or daughters or. Yeah, they've done a really, really good job with some of the characters in that show. I like that show significantly more than I thought I would. I thought I would enjoy it, but I very much like it. It's interesting seeing all the different points folks stopped watching The Walking Dead. Yeah, everybody jumps off eventually. Yeah. From the creator of Downton, and it starts in a few weeks, The Gilded Age. We can get access to HBO. We might have to check that out. That doesn't make me that wheezy. Respect for not being afraid to cry. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a sign of strength to be like, I don't shove down my spectrum of emotions. I embrace it freely. I'm still watching when a season comes to Netflix. But you're still at whatever, Weeze. This is now a Downton Abbey stream. That's right. I had serious doubts about Downton, but my wife forced me to watch it, and it's really good. Oh, yeah. More crying in the future episodes. I've just accepted that I'm going to cry almost every time we sit down to watch the show. You know, there's too many intense character arcs floating around. There's too many. There's too many. We should, we need to schedule the next stream. It stretches my suspension of disbelief a little too far. Well, what they started doing in that show was they just started going like, how far can we take this, right? That's why it got so irritating. It felt far more arbitrary. You know, it was like, well, we really like these characters, or we really like this story. So they were like, well, how far can we take it? So it wasn't what's going to make for really good story pacing. It was more like, well, how far can we stretch this out? I mean, they had an entire friggin' season where, like, nothing happened. They started the season, and they were like, what are we going to do? We should fight back. And they're like, I don't know. And then they go the whole season. And then the season ends, and they're like, all right, we're fighting back. And it's like, that's it? That's the development? That's where the story came? It was like, I could have not watched this. I didn't have to watch this. I could have watched the first episode, and I could have watched the last episode, and I wouldn't have missed much. It's like, read the first chapter, read the last chapter. All right, you got the gist. Now you're ready to go on to the next book. That season, the only good thing that happened was when he gutted that guy in the street. Like, that was it. That was like the best moment. That was the best moment. Was that, you know? All right, we're gonna set this one for 15 after, so that people get notified with the 30. I wasn't paying attention to what time it was. We'll save that image. Okay, and then make sure we're on low latency. Okay, and then we'll make sure that we have a redirect set up. Can't wait until they let you do this redirect to other channels thing. It's going to be so friggin' helpful. That's called filler, and it's usually not a season long. Yeah, usually it's like an episode. Usually if you're going to do filler, it's like one episode. Any thoughts on Witcher Season 2? I'm not watching it. I fell out with the first season. I don't dislike the female form. I mean, obviously I'm married with 2 children, so I enjoy the female form as the next, but I just don't like watching a show where that's like entire scenes, just lengthy, very long, drawn out scenes where it's like, golly, like, I didn't know I was signing up to watch this, you know. if it's sprinkled throughout, okay, no big deal. But Jiminy Christmas, like it just felt like it was constant, and the scenes got longer and longer, and it's like, my gosh, put your clothes on. Like, I don't have anything against it, but that's not what I'm trying to watch right now. I'm in a spectrum of people that I don't consume content like that. And so when it's so much and so it wasn't like a quick scene, just like walking around. How long is this gonna last? I don't know. Season 2 doesn't have near that much. That's what I'm saying. Like, I had to stop watching it. I was like, I don't really consume content like this. And it started with the guy who like lived in that castle, and he used magic or whatever, and so he had all these women walking around, and they were kind of in the background, and whatever. But then it just escalated and escalated and escalated, and then there was like a really lengthy scene where like these people are all standing and watching. I was like, this is kind of not. This is not what I signed up for. And again, and then they were lengthy. Like, there was a scene where she was just like walking around and doing stuff and casting spells, and it's like, why she gotta be naked? Like, what's the deal? I don't know. It's just a preference. It's like, I prefer not to watch that kind of content. I don't have anything against people that like it, but I couldn't enjoy it. Maybe they saw people stop watching there and they were like, this is too much. Yeah, like, I thought I was signing up for The Witcher, like sword fights and magic and, Henry Cavill looking fine, but gee, money Christmas. Game of Thrones and True Blood were big turnoffs for the same thing. No, I didn't watch Game of Thrones because I knew the first season was basically like almost a XXX rated show. I was like, no thanks. And it got toned down. I believe it was, what's her name? Khaleesi, I believe. Shoot, she renegotiated because she was like, I don't want to do this in every episode, because she didn't want to be that. That's not what she wanted to be known for. She didn't want to spend the next 4 seasons taking her clothes off. So she basically pushed back and was like, no, I don't want to do this. Yeah, Emilia Clarke, because it's my understanding you see a whole lot of her in like the first 2 seasons. And then she was like, no, I don't want to be known for this. Like, every other episode, I'm just completely naked. Like, no. And so apparently, from what I've been told, is it tapers way down in that show. Because they were like, Saturday Night Live literally made fun of them for it. Like, it was like, okay, it must be pretty bad. Mark Clark, yeah. You didn't see Jason and Emilia Clarke playing Thumb Wars? I know they don't show you much of him, so what difference does it make? You see Oliver all the time? I thought after the 2nd or 3rd season, people said that she wasn't doing it anymore. That stopped. She stopped doing scenes like that after like it was like the 2nd or 3rd season, because there was like a rumor. They're like, one of the lead actors in Game of Thrones has renegotiated her contract she doesn't want to do nudity anymore or something. And it makes sense. It's like, if the show is a hit and you start getting other opportunities, that you don't like that being what you're known for. You'd like to be known for other things. Body double. It was gratuitous in the first season. Yeah. There's a lot less, but still a couple of seasons. Are you sure she doesn't do body double? Because I know they did a body double for What's-Her-Face. They did an interview with her about it. The shame scene where she like walks through the town, that's not her. They did like a deep fake. They put her face on somebody else. That's not her. Because she did an interview about it. Because they knew that scene was coming, and she didn't want it. She never did nudity in the show. They either used a body double or fancy camera angles. She did a whole interview about it. There was one scene in a later season, but it was only because it fit for that particular scene. Lono's issue is it's too little of Momoa and Henry. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Like, come on, I thought we were all about equal outcomes here. I should be able to see as much of Momoa as I see of her. I know people have told me it's worth it. I know people have told me that, like, even though it has, like, not the greatest ending, it's still worth watching. And I'm just like, nah, I'm okay. There's plenty of shows out there. I don't want to have to, like, slog through all of that just to get to and also knowing that the ending is, like, super unsatisfying for, like, a bulk of the audience. I'm like, no, thank you. No, thanks. I don't plan on ever watching it. A lot of shows use CGI. Yeah, or body doubles. Yeah. The ending of it really ruined a rewatch. I remember, I didn't think I'd ever be able to rewatch Breaking Bad, but I thoroughly enjoyed my rewatch of it. There were all these little elements and things that I had forgotten. Oh, that's really cool. I like seeing people succeed that deserve it. Anyway, last season killed the show for me. Yeah, a lot of people have said that. So, yeah, unfortunately, McD09, I saw the entire end of that show spoiled for me on Twitter. Like, I didn't even mean to. The guy was like, man, the ending was so trash. He's like, spoilers ahead. And I was like, whoops. And I just kind of like read it. It was super quick. It was like one sentence. And I was like, well, no need to watch that show. You know, as much as I like, what's his name? Michael C. Hall? Michael C. Hall? Is that his name? I liked him in 6 Feet Under, too. Is it Michael C. Hall? Yeah, I like him. Imagine Momoa was cast as Kratos in God of War. He has the right body type, but I worry about the voice. He wouldn't. That would be the hardest part, you know. You just need that. There's just boy. It's got to be so down there. My son, we'll go back and forth. It's really funny. I'll be like, boy, and he'll be like, boy, and I'm like, you are not ready. Read it, boy. Writing in the reboot was atrocious, like really, really bad. I've heard mixed reviews about it. Some people have said, oh, it redeemed it. Some people have said it's not any good. My concern is that people were so dissatisfied with the first one that they were just like hungry for, you know, a different resolution. What kind of a news story is that? Yeah, I could not play Kratos. I'm too small. That wouldn't work. Reboot for what? It wasn't a reboot. I think he used the wrong word. It was kind of a it was an epilogue. They were like, all right, we'll give you a different ending here. You know, Lumberjack Dexter, it was pretty disappointing. You know what I mean? Any news on the Lord of the Rings series? Will you be watching that? Oh, of course. Wheel of Time was excellent. And I'm looking forward to... Netflix got the rights to Narnia. I would love to see them do the Narnia, you know, series correctly. Like, go in the right order, start with Magician's Nephew, and not be so... I don't know. The movies that they did weren't terrible, but they also weren't very good. They were a little too early. They need to look a little bit more closer to, like, Lord of the Rings quality. And they need to be... they need to stick closer to the books. The season with Lithgow was just too good. Yeah. Lithgow was special in that show. Very, very special. Who was the dude in the Green Mile? Oh, he passed away. I forget his name. Michael Clark Duncan, was that his name? He passed away years ago. Yeah, Michael Clark Duncan. Yeah, he passed away in 2012. Yeah. Yeah, he was a beast of a person. 6'5" and just absolutely massive. He would have made a good Kratos. Dave Bautista? Maybe. You can kind of see it in Drax. Yeah, maybe. I don't think he has the voice for it, though. He made a great Kingpin. Who do he play? Where does he play Kingpin? I don't remember that. Like, I do remember that, but I don't. What was that? It was in that it was in Daredevil with the frickin', oh my gosh, with Ben Affleck. Yeah. Well, we got Vince D'Onofrio, so we got the next best thing. I've not seen the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. I couldn't do it. It looks so bad. It looks so bad. All right, we'll continue discussing Horizon Forbidden West full game leaks with no spoilers. If you're interested in Horizon Forbidden West spoilers, I'm interested to know whether or not you'll look for them. Take the poll at the top of the chat. I'll be right back, and we'll continue talking about it, and we will shift gears to a stream about Halo. And thanks so much for being here. I'll be right back. That's like super extreme. That freaking blue light was just like, bing, just like hitting that. Ooh. Ooh, it is cold, chat. Hardy is shorter than you think. Yeah, Tom Hardy's not a very tall guy. Yeah. He'd be a tough sell as, I don't know. Kratos is hard because you need like a big white dude who's in his 40s. Yeah, it's weird because like his skin's almost like stone colored. I don't know. He doesn't look. It's like he doesn't look like he's meant to be like a certain ethnicity. It looks more like he's like literally cut from stone. Dad bod? Well, Thor. Thick Thor, man. It's ashes of his dead family. Is that true? Is that the lore? It's the ashes of his dead family. Oh. Well then, yeah, so his skin could be dark. Kratos' skin tone is white because he's covered by the ashes of his family. So then the skin underneath could be dark. That probably would make more sense, wouldn't it? Like a darker skin palette would show that more strongly, would it not? Or are we meant to think that he's like got light skin underneath? He is actually white? Oh, okay. That might be hard to pull off, though. I don't know. That might look kind of weird. Like if you picked his natural skin tone's definitely darker. In God of War 1, you learn this in the flashbacks. His skin is like Egyptian. Yeah, so it would be more like, like Dwayne The Rock Johnson's skin complexion, not necessarily like Michael Clark Duncan or Ving Rhames. Like they would be too dark. It might not look very good. Like you cover him in like the ashes of his dead family, and if he has like really dark skin, it might not look very good. It might like look kind of goofy. You did something for science. Expires on the 12th of April. Following videos have been removed due to a copyright takedown request. So you got a strike. Expires on April. What? Oh, you just uploaded something on YouTube. Oh, is it like an experiment? You'd have to live stream. The true test is to live stream and see how soon it gets caught. And pick something where you don't want to be afraid of getting sued if you're trying to experiment with it. Copyright School. Please take a moment to watch this video on copyright and answer the following questions. I'm available to play Kratos. Yeah. Have any new thought experiment films to recommend? It's been a while since I've asked. Last ones you recommended were Circle and Would You Rather. The Exam was really good. They're like all interviewing for a position and they're in a room. I thought that one was really good. There was the other that one's not very violent. The Exam's not very violent. But there was the other one that is really violent where they're they're in the building and then they start telling people to kill each other. It's like a business. It's like a government run business, but it's actually just a big experiment. Like they lock down the whole building. I don't appreciate the laughing. I'm sorry. I always forget the name of that one. Yeah, the Platform was pretty good. That one's pretty violent too. And then the Belko Experiment. That's it. Yeah, the Platform, the Belko Experiment, and the Exam. The exam's not violent at all, but the Belko experiment and the platform are pretty violent. What about the mountain for Kratos? Maybe. Does Kratos have an old dumpy phase? If you're tuning in for Horizon Forbidden West full game leaked, we are definitely not talking about that right now. But we did earlier. If you want my breakdown of how they did it, there's no spoilers in this stream. We also are interested, if you're looking for Horizon Forbidden West spoilers, why would you be looking for them? The poll at the top of the chat asking people if they are looking for them and why. Wait, they modeled it after that guy? After Shad Gaspard? Well, they're doing a Ghost of Tsushima movie. I wonder, is it gonna be in English? Yeah, apparently the guy they modeled Kratos after is actually a black man. His name is Shad Gaspard. So they modeled his body and head and everything after he is a American professional wrestler, Shad Gaspard. He's best known for his time in the WWE, where he performed under his real name, or he also performed as Shad. Everyone have to read subtitles. It has to be authentic. I would really, really prefer that the Ghost of Tsushima movie was in Japanese. I'd want English. Then I'd want an English dub for the Ghost movie. The model and voiced him with black man, but they made him white. It probably has something to do with maybe the origins of the gods. I don't know. I don't want to have to learn to read. They modeled him after Chad Gaspard. I call BS. Look at the photos of him. Their faces couldn't be more different. Well, I don't know. It looks... Hang on. How did you find that? Chad... Gaspard. Okay. And then I'm gonna go... God of War. Open image in a new tab. As far as I can tell, the only thing they changed was nose and mouth. Everything else is the same. Everything else is the same. Head shape, his jaw, his ears, his body. They did change his nose and his mouth. They did. I thought they modeled him after Ed Norton. No. Yeah, they definitely gave him over the years a very a slightly different face over the years. The one in the most recent game, his face is quite a bit different than Shad's face. Look pretty similar to me. I mean, I'll put I've got a really good side by side of the two of them. If you look at this side by side, they very clearly changed the nose shape, and the mouth shape. It's different, you know. That's not abnormal for a black man to have a more fuller mouth and a more broad nose, and they gave Kratos a more narrow nose, almost like his nose almost comes down to a point, and they gave him a smaller mouth. But the body shape, you can clearly see it. You can see that they used his body. You can see the similarities in his neck and his shoulders and his arms and everything. But the face is quite a bit different. Head shape and the brow is similar, but the face has been changed. Where's the traditional female features? Right. Find a buff bald guy for every race that may look similar. I don't think so. No. If you compared all the buff guys in the WWF and the WWE, their body shapes are very different. Very different. Depending on how tall they are, depending on their weight. There's a lot of differences in their body types. Missing? Wait, he went missing? Wait, did he die? Did he drown? Dead at 39 after saving his son and going missing in the ocean? Oh my gosh. WWF? Okay there, boomer. So is the presumption that he drowned after saving his son? That's awful. I mean, I suppose it's not as bad as like, well, yeah, he just straight up drowned. Like at least it was, at least it's tied to like heroism, like he was a hero, but golly, that's terrible. I had to run an errand this morning. I'm only just getting my dark roast now. Have I mentioned I'm a fan of this coffee? Yeah, we had 2 coffee sales today. He got caught in the riptide. Oh, that's terrible. Even a guy of that size and physique can fall prey to a riptide. What's their longest video here? Here's looking at you, Halo. Where's the multiplayer overview that they did? Isn't it like 3 or 4 minutes? Here we go. Set the resolution, loop the video. Big muscles don't float. Yeah, well, I mean, you would just think he would have the endurance and the strength to get back, But again, a riptide is just, you're supposed to swim parallel to get out of it. That's the trick, isn't it? If you try to fight against it, it's just going to keep pulling you out. You're supposed to swim parallel to the beach until you feel it stop pulling you, and then you can get back in. My mom and I got caught in a riptide when we were at Myrtle Beach. I was pretty young, and there was a woman on the beach telling us she was going like this, and so we started swimming parallel, and we got out of it. And my mom said it was terrifying. Because I can't imagine. I've got kids now. Like, I can't imagine swimming with one of my kids and realizing, like, oh my gosh, we might get taken out to sea. So, the cramps kill you. Yeah. Because it's just that's sad. I think luckily we had things that we could float on, so we weren't like We were in danger, obviously, but we weren't in, like, mortal danger. Like, we could have floated and, you know, the Coast Guard could have come and got us. It's harder the denser you are. I'm an all right swimmer, but my natural buoyancy when I tested in the Marine Corps was like 7 feet under the water. Muscles definitely don't help. Oh. Might have worked, yeah. Might have worked against him. Being a big muscly bound guy. Okay. Let's get this tweet ready. We got to shift gears here. I like keeping these streams short. This is a good one, though. This is a good one. We've had a couple of days that weren't so strong, but we're getting into a better rhythm, and we've got more exciting things to talk about. So it's getting a little disheartening. It was like, man, we hit 10K. What a great milestone, and we've been stumbling a bit. Okay. Rips are usually under 100 feet out and about 50 feet wide. I can swim from pure strength, but floating, oh yeah. Yeah, if you can't like lay on your back and float to let your muscles get a rest, you're in bad shape. You are in bad shape. All right, we're going to be shifting gears to Halo. Yeah, we're moving. We got a good update from 343. Okay. Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. This is going to be another episode of SNTR Gaming News covering an update from 343 about Big Team Battle, their goals, a roadmap, all kind of things from an update blog post that they put out there. If you like these sorts of streams and gaming news topics, be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button so that way you are here when we stream. We try to put this right on the front end and give you the really quick update and summary, so that way when you click on the video, the goods are right here, and then we discuss it for about 3